श्री चैतन्य मनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेशा गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यस्य कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। सर्वशास्त्रादि पीयूष सर्ववैदिक सत्फल सर्व सिद्धांत रत्नाद्य सर्वलोकैक दृक्प्रद सर्व भागवत प्राण श्रीमद् भागवतो प्रभु कलिद्वंतोतितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तिता परमानंद पाथाय प्रेम वर्ष अक्षराय ते सर्वद सर्व सेवाय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुते मद एक बंधु मद संगीन मद गुरु मद महाधना मन निष्ठारक मन भाग्य मद आनंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधु तादा इन अति नीचो च ताकर हाना मुंचा कदाचिन्मां प्रेम न हृत कंथयो स्फुरः। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायण नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी श्रीमतां स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्य श्रवण कीर्तनम हृदयन्तस्त्व भद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत् सताम। ग्रंथराज भागवताम की जय। Okay, thank you all dear devotees for joining. Okay, so thank you all so much. So we are in the third canto, chapter 1 of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Does anyone want to quickly review what we have covered up to this point, and we'll continue with our section. I'd like to unmute and share what have we covered up to this section.
Which I will say from my memory, we read that how Vidur, when he was insulted by Duryodhan, he left, and because he thought that because of the association from with Duryodhan and Dhritarashtra, his pious credits have gone down, so he went to pilgrimage and visited various places.
Very nice, Mother. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. So we read in the end of the second canto that how we are reading this conversation, the discussion as we are reading between Sonakadi Rishi and Suta Goswami, and then also Parikshit and Sukadeva Goswami. So those two conversations. So in that conversation, when Sukadeva Goswami was describing all the different days of Brahma, and he said, "Okay, let me start off explain the first day," and then. Suta Goswami, Sonakadi Rishi, they actually requested, first, can you tell us about Vidura and Maitreya's conversation? right? And then instead of going into the first day of Brahma, then we actually started by reading the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. So this third canto starts off by actually describing the situation under which Vidura actually he had left the palace, and then he went and he met Uddhav, and the first 4 chapters is all about like Uddhav and Vidura's conversation, and then we actually go into under what circumstances did Vidura meet Maitreya Rishi, and what questions did Vidura actually ask Maitreya Rishi, right? And also we discussed in the first, I think we covered up to text 24, that what were the circumstances that actually led to Vidura actually leaving Hastinapur. And we read that how Vidura was giving good advice to Dhritarashtra, and he was saying like, sacrifice your son, give back the Pandavas their rightful claim, and when he was saying that sacrifice Duryodhana, and at the time Duryodhana came and he was very angry, and how he actually insulted Vidura. He insulted Vidura, and then when Vidura was insulted by Duryodhana in this way, then he just actually decided, okay, this is, and then we explained the point how it was the working of the external energy and the internal energy. Vidura could see both the external energy acting on Duryodhana, and you're saying like how Duryodhana, Krishna is right here, but Duryodhana cannot see, Krishna, right? So he was amazed at how the external energy covers conditioned souls. At the same time, he was seeing how the internal energy of the Lord is actually giving me an opportunity to leave everything and just travel, come close to Krishna, travel to all places of pilgrimage. And then the point that Vijaya Mata also mentioned, that he actually, so he left the palace, he just left his bow also there, and he walked out of the palace. And then Vidura, he could have gone straight to Krishna. Krishna is right there on the planet having personal darshan of Krishna. He could have just walked straight to Krishna. But why did he not go to Krishna? And we discussed the point that he was thinking, out of his humility, he was thinking, so there's 2 points here. Out of his humility, he was thinking that, I have been associating with Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra for so long. So all my pious credits have now been reduced. Hence, first of all, I should travel to all these places of pilgrimage first before I can qualify myself to actually have darshan of Lord Shri Krishna. So he actually went and he started traveling to different places of pilgrimage. And last class also we read that how he actually, which places did he go, where did he go. So kind of the entire route of where Vidura was traveling was actually given. How he went to Saraswati and these places he saw and so on. And every place, what was his main intention? Yes, he was visiting all the different deities of Vishnu, right? It says different forms of Vishnu he was actually taking darshan. But what was his main intention, which should be the mood of all of us when we go to the Dham, is actually Hari Toshananam. So that was the word that was used. That wherever he was traveling, he was just saying, how can I actually, my pilgrimage is only for the satisfaction of Hari. And he was always in that consciousness of actually giving pleasure to Lord Hari, right? And then the second reason. So that was the first reason. What was the second reason? Second reason is the point that is actually more deeper, which is actually the point we see again in Srimad Bhagavatam, that more than having the direct darshan of the Lord, more relishable is to actually hear about the Lord from the pure devotees, to actually relish the personality of Krishna in the association of devotees, actually more relishable than having direct darshan of the Lord. Right? And we give throughout the Bhagavatam, we see this where devotees are getting darshan of Lord Vishnu, but they are saying, oh Lord Vishnu, please always keep me in the association of devotees so that I can always relish your nectar, because it is through these devotees that we can actually really relish. So that was the second deeper reason, right? So those 2 reasons. And then we came to the point that we read about Vidura's, which all places he went, and right, Haritoshanani, we read about that point. Okay. And then finally, we come to a place that Vidura, after traveling through different places, he comes to the banks of the Yamuna. And who does he meet there? He actually meets Uddhav, right? And then we read about the qualities of Uddhav. So it is said that Uddhav is Vasudeva Anucharam. He is a constant companion of Vasudeva. Prashantam, very sober and very gentle. Tanayam Brahaspati is actually a disciple or son of Brahaspati. So these 3 qualities were actually mentioned. And then further, as we proceed, we'll be reading more about what is that level of devotion that Uddhav has for Krishna. So that will be revealed in today's class. Okay, so now after meeting Uddhav, after meeting after Vidura, after meeting Uddhav, what did he do? Right? What questions did he actually ask? And we also read a little bit. It's important to know the relationship between Vidura and Uddhav, in the sense that Uddhav is actually kind of the next generation of Vidura. You know, so it's almost like Uddhav uncle is actually at the age of Vidura. So it's next generation. So when Vidura first came and he saw Uddhav, he actually embraced him, and Uddhav actually bowed down, right? But at the same time, like, he was so much in remembrance of Krishna that he actually fainted, right? Okay, so now we are at text 24, I think. Is that right?
26.
26. Okay, yes. Let's start with text number 26. Okay, so we have the list on the chat. So those devotees have joined for the first time. If you like to read, you can, like we request you, like we take turns reading the translation. If anyone would like to read, you can just send a personal message to Ratna Radhika and she'll add you to the list. Okay. Okay. So let's continue. So let's start with text number 26.
Kachit Purano Purusho Svanabhya Padmanuvrityeha Kilavartino Asatta Urya Kushalam Vidhaya Kritakshano Kushalam Shuragehe.
Hare Krishna. Please tell me whether the original personalities of Godhead, who incarnated themselves at the request of the Brahma, who is born out of the lotus flower from the Lord, and who have increased the prosperity of the world by elevating everyone, are doing well in the house of Surasena. Oops.
So now, when Vidura is seeing Uddhav, now, as I mentioned last time, from 26 all the way to text almost 40, yeah. From 26 to 40 is all. If you see the Sanskrit also, they all start with kachit, or that word kachit is there. And then later on, there's a different word, but the same meaning. Kachit means whether this person is doing okay, whether this person is doing okay. So there's a whole list, and he's actually asking about these different personalities. So who is the first personality that actually Vidura is asking? And we read previously when Vidura actually went to Prabhas Kshetra, when he was traveling, he actually heard the news of the annihilation of the Yadavas, right? So, and then we made the point that Vidura's question is not practical. It was more like emotional, more psychological, because he heard it, but still he didn't want to believe it. And he was thinking like, no, maybe they're still here. In that mood, he's actually asking Uddhav, right? So kachit, again, whether. So we'll see this word come again and again in these verses. And Purano Purusho. Purano is referring to the original, Purusha, the supreme personality of Godhead, right? So Purana Purusho. So whether he's first of all asking whether the two personalities, the Krishna and Balaram, the original personality of Godhead, Swanabhya Padma Anuvritya. Very nice word. Swanabhya. Nabhya means navel, right? Who from the navel of whom Padma Anuvritya, who actually appeared on the lotus from the navel of the Lord, on the request of that personality, these personalities actually descended, right? So on the request of Brahma, so we know how Bhumi Devi actually flew into demigods, and they all went together and prayed at the Shira ocean, and then they said, "Oh Lord, please descend. Only you can." So all that episode in the 10th canto, first chapter, right? So on the request of Brahma, these two personalities have descended, and what is the reason for their descent? Iha Kila and Avartinam. Avartinam means they have incarnated here for two reasons. One is Kushalam. Kushalam means for the well-being of everyone. As soon as the Lord appears, then everyone is blessed, right? So well-being of everyone. And Krita Shano. And when he actually comes, he elevates everyone's prosperity. That means he makes everyone joyful, right? So he comes down for the well-being of everyone. And second point is Krita Shano. He actually elevates everyone's prosperity, right? Okay. And are they kushala? So it's very interesting that you see the words how they are used. He's asking that person who actually descends to do the kushala of everyone, are they kushala? Are they kushala? So that's the poetic sense in it. Are they kushala, doing well in Suragehe, in the house of Surasena? Right? So that is a question here. Okay, and the main point here, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also makes that first he's asking about Krishna and Balaram, not about the devotees, because the welfare of the devotees depends on the presence of the Lord. If the Lord is present, everything is fine, right? So the welfare of the devotees depends on the presence of the Lord. Hence, he first actually asked about the Lord, right? And the other point is, if someone asks, is Krishna and Balaram doing well? Like, what kind of question is that? Krishna and Balaram doing well? They are the Supreme Personality of God. How can they be not well? They are. So Krishna and Balaram certainly are always, Akhila Rasamrita Murti, Rasika Shekhara, they are the embodiment of all rasa. They are actually rasa personified, right? They are always happy. But the point that Vidura is actually saying this is, though Krishna and Balaram are eternally well, the question is out of prema. It is out of emotion, right? So, okay. Prabhupada then says Krishna and Balaram are not two different personalities. In the purport, he says, they are actually just one personality who was just expanded for the purpose of rasa, right? So they shouldn't be considered as two personalities. They are not two different personalities. How Prabhupada also makes the point that the only difference between Krishna and Balaram is Krishna is darkish, like the rain cloud, and Balaram is whitish, like the spring cloud. But otherwise, they are exactly the same. So that's. And then Prabhupada also makes the point that without the grace of the Lord, no one can be happy and prosperous. And hence, they are Vidura is first asking about Krishna and Balaram. Okay. So this point is that our happiness completely depends on the presence of the Lord, on our connection with the Lord. When the Lord is present, everything is good. So even personally in our life, if we are in contact with the Lord, that means if we are Krishna consciousness, then externally the things may be worse, but still everything is good. But on the other hand, if materially everything is good, all opulence, family, no problems, everything seems good, but if our connection with Krishna is not there, then it is not good. Finally, our welfare depends on how much we are actually Krishna conscious at every moment of our life. So that's the point. Okay. So let's proceed. Text number 27.
Pachit kurunam paramasuriно hamasa aste sukam angashodihi yo vai svasrinam pitrivad dadati varan vadanyo varatarpanena.
Please tell me whether the best friend of the Kurus, our brother-in-law Vasudev, is doing well. He is very munificent. He is like a father to his sisters and is always pleasing to his wives.
Okay, so next is again you see Kachit. Right? You see the Kachit. Whether Kurunam Paramaha Surat, who is the best friend of all the Kurus, right? So this is the best friend of all the Kurus. And then further he elaborates and he says, Na Bhamaha. Bhama referring to our brother-in-law. So here is actually asking about Vasudev, right? Vasudev. And then he says Vasudev, Sir Bhama means our brother-in-law. So he's saying my brother-in-law. So Vasudev is brother of Vidura's sister. So Vidura's sister-in-law is who? Kunti. Kunti's brother is Vasudev. Right? So in that way, he's actually saying our brother-in-law. Right? Okay, so the best friend of the Kurus, Kurunam Paramaha, Na Bhamaha, our brother-in-law, and Saurihi. Saurihi is actually the name of Vasudev. So is Vasudev doing well? And further he elaborates. So it's so interesting that when he's actually talking about the personality, he is actually also glorifying them, saying that this is their main qualities, glorifying them. So what is the glorification here? Ya vai Swashranam, right? Swashranam. So Pitravat. So one who certainly took care of sisters like brother. Right? So Vasudeva had different sisters, but particularly here, when when Vidura is actually asking this, he's thinking about Kunti, because Kunti was the dearmost sister of Vasudeva. Right? Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is actually making this point that of all the sisters, Vasudeva had the greatest affection for Kunti, and he actually cared for Kunti as his own daughter. So that point. And then Varan Vadanya Vara Tarpanena. And he was always pleasing to his wives, right? Devaki and etc. Gave everything desirable and munificent to the sisters. So he was like a father to his sister, always pleasing to his wife, and he was very munificent. Vadanyaha. Where do we hear this word Vadanyaha? Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna. So Vadanya, the munificent. So he's saying that even Vasudeva is actually munificent. And so Prabhupada elaborates that how Vasudeva, he had 16 wives, and one of them was Pauravi or Rohini, right? And she was the sister of Vidura. So it's interesting that connection is there. It's not so commonly known, but that Rohini is actually the sister of Vidura. So that is one connection. And the second connection Prabhupada mentioned is how Vidura brother Vidura's brother Pandu's wife is Kunti, and again Kunti is actually related to Vasudeva. So both ways Prabhupada says that brother-in-law concept is there. Right? And he has special attention for Kunti because she lost Pandu at the early age, and hence he's actually asking about Vasudeva's welfare. Right? So Prabhupada says, while inquiring on Vasudeva's welfare, Vidura remembered all about him and family relationships. So it's so nice, like when we think about a particular devotee, it's good to like immediately think, what are the qualities of a devotee? That is actually the real character that we want to develop, that whenever we think of devotees, immediately first thing is like, okay, what mood of appreciation I have for the devotee. And finally, we have to open our heart where we develop that mood of appreciation for all the Vaishnavas. That's when, Krishna will be pleased and the mercy will actually flow through us. Right? So developing that mood of appreciation. We see Vidura having that mood. He thinks about them and immediately he glorifies them. Okay. 28.
Kachid Varutadhipatir Yadunam Pradhumna Aste Sukam Angaviraha Yam Rukmi Bhagavato Bhilebhe Aradhya Vipran Smaram Adi Sarge.
Oh, Uddhava, please tell me, how is Pradyumna, the commander-in-chief of the Yadus, who was Cupid in a former life? Rukmini bore him as her son from Lord Krishna by the grace of Brahmanas whom she pleased.
Okay, so Kachid, okay, weather, and then here it says Varuta Adhipatihi. Adhipatihi means the commander-in-chief of the Yadus military force. And who was the commander-in-chief? It was Pradyumna himself. Pradyumna, the son of Krishna. But further, he actually says Pradyumna is he aste sukham? Is he actually happy now? So all he's saying, whether so-and-so personality is happy, okay. But further, he actually elaborates and he's saying Viraha, he's a great warrior. And then Rukmini Bhagavata, so Rukmini actually gave birth to Pradyumna, and Abhileve Aradhya Vipran. By pleasing the Brahmana, she actually had Pradyumna as her son, right? So that is another point. And then Smaram means Kamadev, right? That this Pradyumna is actually Kamadev himself. Right? So this point about Kamadev and Pradyumna, like Prabhupada says, according to Srila Jiva Goswami, Smara or Cupid is one of the eternal associates of Lord Krishna. Right? So this point actually has been elaborated that okay, so first point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is elaborating is that Vidura is, because he is asking these questions out of emotions, we should not consider that he is going from high to low or like, to from some particular order. Just out of emotions, like all these different personalities are coming to his mind. So we shouldn't consider an order here, right? So it is just one after another he's asking. Second point, Kamadev, actually Kamadev, if you see, is a demigod. Right? Kamadev itself is a demigod, and his role of this demigod is what? And he sees conditioned jivas, and every time he takes his arrow of Cupid and keeps shooting the arrows. And then man is attracted to woman, woman attracted to man. That's Cupid's role, right? And then when Cupid actually tried to entice Lord Shiva, then Lord Shiva got angry. And just by his glance, he actually burnt the body of Kamadev. Right? So Kamadev was then, this demigod Kamadev was actually without a body. But then when Pradyumna actually appeared, so Pradyumna's Vibhuti is actually Kamadev. So Kamadev actually entered into the body of Pradyumna. That demigod Kamadev entered into the body of Pradyumna. So this point about, so if you see, then when Brahma and actually demigods, they went to pray for at Shira ocean to Shirodaksha Vishnu, that you please descend. The earth is overburdened with so much sin. Then what did Vishnu actually tell? He told Brahma in his meditation that you should actually tell all the demigods should take birth in the family of the Yadus so that they can assist in the pastime. So basically the demigods, they actually descended and they appeared in these families, right? Yadus and these families. But also when Lord Krishna descends, he descends with his eternal associates. So that is demigods and there is also the eternal associates of the Lord. So how are both of them actually present? So demigods, they actually enter into the bodies of the eternal associates. So here, Kamadev, who's actually a demigod, is actually entered into the body of Pradyumna, and hence that point about. Right? So also, like Vishwanath Thakur is elaborating on this point, and he actually saying that Kamadev is Pradyumna's Vibhuti, right? And he's also saying that later on we'll read about like how Vasudeva and Devaki, they are in the 10th canto we read. And then we see they are actually, sorry, not Vasudeva and Devaki, Nanda and Yashoda. They are what? Drona and Dhara, right? So when later on in 10th canto, when Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, then what austerities does Mother Yashoda actually do to actually have such intimate pastimes with Krishna? And this is immediately after the Damodar Leela, which we are going to start meditate. I mean, we're going to start celebrating Kartik very soon. But in the Damodar Leela, immediately after, Parikshit Maharaj is like, who can actually have that great fortune of having so intimate pastime with Krishna? And then Sukadeva Goswami actually says, oh, actually they were Drona and Dhara, and they are demigods, and they actually prayed to be parents of Krishna, So they descended, but then he actually, he tells the story of Drona and Dhara, how they descended because they desired to have Krishna as their son. But then he concludes by saying, actually, no one can take the position of Mother Yashoda because she's an eternal associate of the Lord. But the Drona and Dhara, because they had prayed to Brahma to have Krishna as a son, they entered into the bodies of the eternal associates, Yashoda and Nanda. Right? So you have to understand that all these eternal associates, they are eternal associates, plus they have a aspect of a demigod as a vibhuti. So later on, when the final, we'll read about that in the next chapter, when the final pastime is there, you will see that it is described that all, like, when the entire curse was there, that, oh, now, there's a whole story of the Moshala Leela, how they were cursed, that, okay, they will kill themselves, and they will actually, the entire Yadavas would be annihilated. But then it is described that the Yadavas, Krishna actually said, oh, we should all go to Prabhat Kshetra because of this curse, so that we should actually perform atonement there, perform austerities because we all have been cursed. At that time, it is described the demigod portions, they go to Prabhat Kshetra, and the eternal associates of the Lord, they remain in Dwarka. And they actually enter into the Aprakat Leela. So they're still in Dwarka, they enter in upper. And the demigod portions, they go to Prabhat Kshetra, and that is where they get intoxicated, they fight with each other, and right? So that aspect, like Vishwanath Thakur is explaining in his purport. And he says further also that Jambavati performed austerities to get Kartikeya as a son. that cannot be taken literally, because Jambavati is also an eternal wife of the sun. So further also, I'm elaborating on this because further also we'll read similar references of demigod and the eternal associate. Okay. Okay, so that's the main point. And Cupid, the whole story of how Kamadev, entered into the body of Pradyumna, and then also a story of Pradyumna in the 10th canto. We read that how he was born, how he was kidnapped by this demon by name Sambara, and later on how Pradyumna. But we won't go into those details now. But yeah, okay. So okay, should we proceed? I see two hands raised. Okay, let's take the questions. Go ahead, Divya.
So, Prabhu, the demigods merge into the body of the eternal associates. That happens on the Gokula, the earthly pastimes, right?
Earthly pastimes, yes.
Not on the Golok.
No. Right.
Okay.
So, one way you can consider how the demigods are qualified to even enter.
Right.
But when Krishna
Right.
comes, he gives special mercy to even the demigods. So,
And also, is it like I have somewhere read, Prabhu, that other four Viha, Chaturviha, Pradyumna is part of the fourth, like the first. So he's the origin, like the first four.
yes. So it is actually described.
Pradyumna and Anuruddha also, right?
So Pradyumna, third manifestation, he appears from Sankarshan. Chaturviha first is Sankarshan, and then
Yeah.
and those who are actually Vasudev, Sankarshan,
Pradyumna, Aniruddha.
So Pradyumna is number 3.
Yeah.
Third manifestation, right? And it is said also Pradyumna is a manifestation of intelligence. So those who are especially intelligent worship the Pradyumna expansion of Sankarshan as the principle of intelligence. And okay.
Aniruddha is like mind, right?
Yeah, Aniruddha
is mind.
Mind, right? So that one. And he is the origin of the creation of the material world, and he has invested his creative principle in Cupid. It is by his direction only that all men and demigods and other living entities function with energy of regeneration. So, Vijay Mataji?
Did you understand that Cupid is the demigod and Pradyumna is an eternal associate? So who is the Vibhuti of whom?
So Vibhuti means what? Opulence. Right?
Opulence, yeah.
So 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, oh, these are my Vibhutis. Right? And then there's a whole list. So Kamadev or Cupid is the Vibhuti of Pradyumna. Pradyumna's opulence is, one of the opulence of Pradyumna is Cupid. Okay, text 29.
Kachit sukham sattvatak vrishni bhoja dasharha kanam adipasa aste yam apyasanchit chata patra netro nripasanasham pariritya durat.
Oh, my friend, tell me whether Ugrasena, the king of the Sattvatas, Vrishnis, Bhojas, and Darshanas, is now doing well. He went far away from his kingdom, leaving aside all hopes of his royal throne, but Lord Krishna again installed him.
So Kachit, whether we see, whether who, and here it clearly says, Sukham, whether all is well with Satvata, Vrishni, Bhoja, Dasara, Kana. Right? So these 4 dynasties have been mentioned. And later on, when we see in the end of the 9th canto, just leading unto the appearance of Lord Krishna, there we read how these 4 dynasties actually come. Like how does, if you open your 9th canto Bhagavatam book and see to the end, there's this entire table of lineage. This came from this came from this, and there you can see all these 4 dynasties. But all these 4 dynasties are whether the king of these 4 dynasties, right? So it says Adipaha, King Ugrasen, whether he's actually doing well. Right? And then further, what is the quality here? Abhyas Shinchat, install Shata Patra Netra. Very beautiful word, right? So we have heard of Padma Lochana. Padma Lochana means what? Krishna who has eyes like a lotus flower. Right? Similarly, there's another word is Shata Patra netra, right? So patra again referring to a petal, and shata referring to the lotus. So petal of lotus, like who has eyes like the petal of a lotus flower. So now we know one more name for our dear Lord Shri Krishna, Shata Patra Netra. Right? So who has eyes like the lotus flower. So he is the one who actually installed Ugrasen as the king, who had actually what? Nipa Asana Asam, right? And Parihritya Dura. So when Kamsa was actually, he became the king, he actually imprisoned Ugrasen. Or Ugrasen, one way, here it is saying that he went far away. And it was actually when Krishna killed Kamsa, he actually reinstalled Ugrasen as the king. Right? So is he actually doing well? Okay, so that's it for this. And next, text 30.
Kachid dhare somya sutta sadriksha aste graniratinama sadhu sambaha asutayam jambhavati vritadhya devam guham yom vikayadritogre.
Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. O great one, does Samba fare well? He exactly resembles the son of the personality of Godhead. In a previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, the most enriched wife of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Right. Okay. So here again the same point. So let's see. So Kachit, so whether Harer, okay, Harer of the personality of God. So here Prabhupada elaborates that he was exactly resembles the son of the personality of God. Okay, as a son of Hari. So son of Hari. And then Saumya. Saumya is a quality that we hear again and again in the Bhagavatam. Saumya means, O grave one, right? O grave one. Saumya. Sutaha, son of Hari, right? And then Aste, does he actually fare well? Right? So he's asking whether the son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, does he actually do well? Now, which son is he talking about? Shamba. Right? So Samba is one of the sons of Krishna from his wife Jambavati. Right? And then it says further, Asuta Jambavati, who actually Jambavati gave birth to this son. And Sadhu, he is actually well behaved, and that's qualities, well behaved as Sadhu. And Agrani Ratina, he's the foremost of all warriors. So two qualities, foremost of all warriors, and then Sadhu, he's very well behaved. And then okay, Vritadhya, enriched with vows. Okay, so now, so up to that point, we see two qualities. He's asking how Samba is actually doing. And then further he says, in the previous birth, he was born as Kartikeya in the womb of the wife of Lord Shiva, and now he has been born in the womb of Jambavati, right? So this, one may say, how is it possible that the son of Lord Shiva in the next birth becomes an eternal associate of the Lord? So that's when we have to again understand the same point that I made. So is this point clear about the demigods and the eternal associates? So it is Kartikeya who actually entered into the eternal associate of Samba. Right? Kartikeya, as a demigod, he entered into Samba because Samba is eternal associate. He's the son of Jambavati. He's always there. Right? He's comes from the spiritual world, he descends. But Kartikeya, actually, who is the son of Lord Shiva, he actually entered into Jambavati. Is this concept clear about demigods and this? So Kartikeya has entered into Samba, Kamadev entered into Pradyumna, Vasu actually entered into Uddhav. So all these personality demigods. And so Prabhupada elaborates. Similarly, all the demigods of the heavenly kingdom appeared as associates of the Lord in the forms of Pradyumna, Samba, Uddhav, etc. Right? It is learned here that Kamadev appeared as Pradyumna, Kartikeya as Samba, and one of the Vasus as Uddhav.
Does this mean there are two souls?
So when we talk of the eternal associates of the Lord, there is no difference between a soul and a body. They are eternal associates, they are completely spiritual, but we have to consider as a vibhuti, as an opulence. So this demigod becomes like an opulence, a vibhuti of these eternal associates. like an opulence of these. So yes, they are demigods. One aspect of the demigod aspect is present within their tattva, right? Within the tattva. So at the level when you talk of associates, there's no difference between soul and body. So right, so one way you can consider the soul of the demigod has entered into a completely spiritual body as the opulence. And then when later on, as I mentioned, that when the final departure pastime is there, then that soul actually leaves separately and they go to Prabhakshetra and they fight, and then they finish that pastime. And then the eternal associates, they live in Dwarka as in the unmanifested form. So even now, if you go to Dwarka, these eternal associates are there, but they are aprakat. They are not visible to our vision, but they are there. So they are aprakat pastime. Okay. Sri Radha Mataji, you have a question?
Prabhu, Hare Krishna. So when we say you're saying the opulence of the demigod goes into the body of the expansion of Krishna, but so that demigod is still existing in his original form because they have assigned duty, right? Kartikeya is a commander of army, and so he still has to perform his duty and still comes in as an expansion, or how does it work?
Question, but one point I'll make here is when Krishna comes, he comes for 125 years of the Earth planet, and for the demigods, that thing is like a moment.
Fraction.
Yeah, not fraction. I mean, like 6 months of us is 1 day for them, right? So it's a very short time for them. But are they? I don't think. I'm not sure whether they expand simultaneously there, like even the demigods expand. But I think the demigods just descend. They actually assist in Lord Krishna's pastimes, and then they go back. When the final pastime is described, that in that Prabhakshetra, when they are fighting, then it said the demigods were reinstated back in their original positions as demigods of the heavenly planets. So I don't think they expand. They just come down, assist in Lord Krishna's pastime, and go back and continue their seva.
Also, like Mahabharata is also called the war between the demigods and demons, right? So all the demons took birth in the Kurus families, like Duryodhana's, Kalis, and like
good point.
The demigods are all the Yadavas.
Yeah.
Mataji, we read that how when Yamraj came as Vidur, someone else was installed, his son was installed on his position.
Yes, Mataji, that's a good example. So that clears the point that they just come down, assist in pastime, and then go back. Very nice. Thank you. Okay, so let's continue. Text 31.
Mohanandapu also asked a question on the chat, like why it says that he resembles the son of the personality of God.
So that, we know with Pradyumna, that when Pradyumna was actually kidnapped, right, Pradyumna, right, son of Rukmini, yes. So when he was actually kidnapped, and then when later on he came back, I'm sure you all know the story. Mayavati, how he entered into the body of the fish, and then how like the cook was actually she was actually the wife of demigod and Kamdev and all this. But when he actually came back, then all the associates in Dwarka, they thought that, oh, Pradyumna looks exactly like Lord Krishna. Almost the queens had like a conjugal feeling initially to see like their own son, because it was so exactly. So, this is what I'm thinking, that here when it says he resembles exactly, that the sons of Krishna had the qualities of Lord Shri Krishna. So even Samba, he actually resembled Lord Shri Krishna. How beautiful. So Pradyumna is particularly mentioned that when he came back, and when Rukmini and others saw him, they were like, it's like Krishna. It's Krishna himself, But actually then they realized that no, it's not Krishna, it's the son. But they resemble so exactly. So that's why it's okay. Let's continue. 39. Sorry, one more point I'll say. Samba, the name Samba actually means he was a pet child and always lived close to his mother. Same Samba indicates Amba means mother and Sa means with. So Samba means one who is always with his mother Jambavati. So Jambavati Suta, hence that word Jambavati is actually mentioned. Okay, let's continue.
Shemam sakachid yuyudhana aste ya palguna labda danu rahasya lebhenja sadho kshaja seva yaiva gatim tadiyam yatibhir durapam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Oh Uddhava, does Yuyudhana fare well? He learned the intricacies of the military art from Arjuna and attained the transcendental destination, which is very difficult to reach even for great renouncers. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So this Yuyudhana is actually Satyaki, right? Satyaki Yuyudhana is the same personality. So here it says Kachid, again Kachid, Shemam cha Kachid. Okay, so Shemam means all good, whether Yuyudhana, Satyaki. Where did we read Satyaki in the first canto of Bhagavatam? Who remembers? When Krishna was going to Dwarka, what was Satyaki doing? Yes, very nice. Thank you. Nice you remember. So it's described when Krishna was actually going on his chariot to Dwarka. Satyaki and Uddhav were actually fanning Krishna with chamaras as he was actually going. So there we read about Satyaki. And also in Yudhana, we read in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, right? When all the personalities on the battlefield of Kurukshetra were mentioned, Yudhana is mentioned. Okay. So one who Falguna is who? Arjun. Right? So he actually learned Labdha, achieved. So he learned Dhanu Rahasya, the intricacies of military art. He actually learned it from Arjun, Falguna. Right? And Agya Adhokshaja. So Prabhupada elaborates on this point in the purport. Agyasa Adhoksha Sevaya. Right? So this is what Prabhupada elaborates. The entire purport is based on this point. So Lebhe again, okay, Lebhe means he achieved easily what Adhoksha Sevaya. He actually easily achieved the service of the transcendent, and because of that, Gatim Tadiyam, he actually attained the supreme destination. Because he was engaged in Adhoksha Seva, he actually attained the transcendental destination, which is Durapam Yatibihi, which is actually very difficult to attain, even for the great Yatibihi. Yatibihi means the great renouncers. Right? So Yudhana, he actually attained because he was engaged in the service of the Lord. And what service? And we read in the first canto how he was actually fanning the Lord. Right? So very intimate doing the seva. And because of that, he actually he attained the transcendental destination. So Prabhupada makes this point in the purport that yes, when you talk of Yatibihi, you could talk of those who are actually empiric philosophers, and they actually enjoy the transcendent quality of bliss by philosophical speculation on the absolute truth, right? So empiric philosophers, the Gyanis, what they do? Philosophical speculation. And through that, they attain a quality of bliss, but that level of bliss cannot be compared, that Brahman bliss cannot be compared to Adhokshaja bliss. Right? And what is the difference between Brahman bliss and Adhokshaja bliss? And Prabhupada then elaborates, and he actually says that and then he makes Brahman bliss is enjoyed by living entities after liberation from material bondage, but Parabrahman enjoys eternally a bliss of his own potency, which is called Haladini potency. Right? So the difference is the Gyanis, they can enjoy a kind of bliss which is on the Brahman stage, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, right? Prasannatma, that kind of bliss, but they are not able to access the Adhokshaja bliss or the Para-Brahman bliss. And the difference is because they do not have access to the Haladini Shakti, the pleasure potency of the Lord himself. And then Prabhupada elaborates and says how the Lord has three internal energies: Samvit, Sandhini, Haladini. Right? And this is actually elaborated further in Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? That Krishna's body is Satchidananda, and his spiritual energy has three aspects. Sandhini is the eternal existence aspect, right? Samvit is the cognizance or knowledge aspect, and Haladini is actually the happiness or the bliss aspect, right? So, right. So Krishna's existence rests upon the essential portion of the Sandhini potency called Shuddha Sattva. Right? So his mother, father, abode, house, bedding, seats, all is actually existence of this Sandhini potency. Samvit is actually the knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Sri Krishna. So all other kinds of spiritual knowledge are components of this Samvit potency. And Haladini is who? The essence of Haladini potency is Prema, love of God, right? And essence of Prema is Bhava. Essence of Bhava is Mahabhav. And Srimati Radharani is embodiment of Mahabhav. So that's the level. But the main point here, Haladini is that essence of the pleasure potency. And the devotees, because they are actually engaged in devotional service to the Lord, bhakti, right? They actually have access to this Haladini potency. So when we are serving the Lord, right, we are actually under the Devi Shakti or the internal potency of the Lord, and by that we easily get access into the transcendental destination. But others, when you consider Gyanis, Yogis, they can do Yam, Niyam, Asam, all these principles, they are unable to enter into the internal potency of the Lord. Okay, so that is this Haladini potency, and the difference between how the Gyanis have access to the Brahman, but only devotees have access to the Haladini potency. Mahatmanas to Mamparta, Daivim Prakritim Ashrita, because they take shelter of the Daivim Prakriti. And what's the Daivim Prakriti? It is access to this internal energies of the Lord. Sandhini, Samvit, Haladini. Maybe the Haladini potency here. Okay. Everyone good? Let's proceed. So,
Hare Krishna.
yes, Mati.
Prabhuji, what is Sandhini? You said Samvit is knowledge, Haladini Shakti is pleasure potency, and Sandhini Shakti
is existential potential. Existence. Right?
Existence. Yeah, okay.
Like his father, mother, abode, house, bedding, all the paraphernalia of the Lord, they're existing, right? So that existential potency is actually Sandhini, and it's a manifestation of the Suddha Sattva, manifestation of pure goodness.
Thank you.
Okay.
Prabhu, the Sat is existential or the Chit is existential?
Sat. Chit is knowledge, right? Manifestation of the Chit is manifestation of the Samvit potency. Okay.
And Sat is Sandhini, right?
Existence, yeah. Sat is a manifestation of the
Chit Anand. Yeah, okay.
Anand from the Haladini potency.
Thank you.
Okay, so what is the question? Who is Satyaki? So Satyaki is again in the in the line of the Yadavas. Again, I would refer like in the 9th canto to the end. Just open the end of the Bhagavatam. There's a whole flowchart. There you can see all the relationships. And it says Yudhana Satyaki was Yadava Vrishni warrior. So he was in the Yadavas. He was student of Drona and Arjuna. And Satyaki was a close friend of Arjuna. He was one of the 7 commanders of the Pandavas army. And, he was a warrior who defeated almost all major warriors of Kauravas. Bhishma, Drona, Karna, Ashwatthama. He defeated all of them. He supported Pandavas with 1 Akshuhini troops. And on the 14th day, Arjun gave responsibility of protection of Yudhishthir to Satyaki, saying that he trusts Satyaki and Pradyumna only for this job. And Satyaki protected Yudhishthir on 14th day. So all this is there. So if you want, I can post this entire thing. Okay, let's proceed. Text number 32. Go ahead.
Kachit Buddha swastyanamiva aste Shvapalka putro bhagavat prapanaha ya Krishna padam gita marga pamsu shushu acheshtata prema vibhina dhairaya.
Okay, so and you don't see the verse. If you have not seen the translation, then you can try to answer this. So when you took note Akrura, What quality of Akrura would you glorify? And if I've already read the translation, don't answer. I want you to think. In talk of Akrura, how would you glorify Akrura?
Offering prayers.
Offering prayers, okay. And then, where do we read the prayers of Akrura?
When he enters Vrindavan.
When he enters Vrindavan, right? So now Vidura is actually meditating on that. When Akrura came, and when he entered Vrindavan, he saw the footprints of Lord Krishna on the dust, and immediately he just like fell on the ground and rolled in that dust, right? Okay, so we see that prema vibhinna. Okay, so please read translation.
Hare Krishna. Please tell me whether Akrura, the son of Sofalka, is doing well. He is a faultless soul, surrendered unto the personality of Godhead. He once lost his mental equilibrium due to his ecstasy of transcendental love and fell down on the dust of a road which was marked with the footprints of Lord Krishna.
So Kachit Swasti, whether he is doing well, who? Buddha. He is very learned, and what's the word? Anamivaha, faultless. Right. So how the gopis, they said, Akrura, you're not Akrura, you're Krura, you're very cruel. So whenever they say Akrura, first of all they say, no, he's faultless. He is not the one who actually separated Krishna from the gopis. He is faultless. And then Swapalka Putra, he's a son of Swapalka. And then Bhagavad Prapanna, he surrendered to Supreme Personality of Godhead. And here Krishna Pada Ankita. Pada Ankita, when he saw the Vrindavan dust marked with the footprints of Lord Shri Krishna, what happened? Acheshtata, he exhibited prema vibhinna. He was lost in transcendental love, right? And dharya, mental equilibrium. He lost his mental equilibrium, and in transcendental love, he just like fell on the ground and he rolled in the dust of Vrindavan. And they say, like, if you want to enter Vrindavan, we have to follow in the footsteps of Akrura. We enter Vrindavan, we fall in the dust, and we roll in the dust of Vrindavan. That is the way we actually enter Vrindavan. Right. And Prabhupada, he makes the point, this ecstasy is possible for a devotee who is fully absorbed in instant thoughts of Krishna. So though Akrura was actually serving Kamsa, actually many of these personalities, many of these personalities, when Kamsa actually came to power, they left. They said, we don't want to serve this cruel Kamsa. But Akrura stayed. Why? Because he was thinking later on Lord Shri Krishna is going to come and kill Akrura and want to have finally that darshan of Lord Shri Krishna. So just for that darshan, for that opportunity to serve Krishna, in spite of being with Kamsa, he was always thinking of Krishna. He was always absorbed. And finally, when he got the opportunity, he said, finally, Krishna has actually had mercy on me and I can actually have darshan of my Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada makes an excellent point in the purport. He says, constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself free from the infectious contamination of material qualities. Like, who can write such excellent sentences? Constant thought of the Lord is the antiseptic method for keeping oneself. So, often this question is that, well, we are out in the material world and there's all these bad association. I have to work with all these karmi people, all these. And how can we actually keep ourselves, free from that infectious contamination? By the antiseptic, right? So we have doctors here on the call and they can talk more about the role that antiseptic medicine actually plays. But once we have, what is the antiseptic medicine here? Constant remembrance of Krishna. So though Akrura, we may complain that, my boss is so materialistic, and then they invited this party, that party, and there's non-veg, there is this drinking. Imagine Akrura. He was actually serving who? Kamsa. That cruel Kamsa. He was serving the cruel Kamsa, but still he was actually always in thought of Krishna, and hence he was actually protected from that infectious association of Kamsa by constant absorption in Krishna, and hence Prabhupada is making, right? Yeah. Okay. Like the pure devotee of the Lord is always in company with the Lord by always thinking of him. So by thinking of Krishna, we are always in contact with Krishna. And therefore, even, like devotees, like they go for Harinam Sankirtan, they go for book distribution, they'll go in the worst degree places. Now like Halloween is coming up. We go there and then we do Harinam Sankirtan. And all the people around is like, just like, you cannot even see, like you have to like kind of close your eyes just to be protected. But because we are associated with the Lord in the chanting, hence we are like, okay, we can be safe. But devotees, we are going outside to this, and we have faith that because as long as we are in contact with Krishna through Prabhupada's books or through the holy name, then we are actually safe. Okay. And then
Just one thing. I just wanted to give you an incident that happened when Indradumna Maharaj came to Mayapur with a bus full of devotees. So when there was a board, "Welcome to Nadia," so he asked all the devotees to get down and roll on the dust. Actually, all the foreign devotees were rolling on the dust on the street, and that came in news, like the local news, following the footsteps of Akrura.
Yeah. Like last time in the class we discussed, right? When Vidura was traveling to all the holy places, what was one quality that we read? Don't care about the society and everyone. Don't care about your religion. Just go and roll in the dust of the dhams. So that's the main thing, right? Okay. So also Prabhupada talks about like how it says that Dhairya, he lost his mental equilibrium. Devotee is always in contact with Krishna. Why should he lose his mental equilibrium? And Prabhupada says sometimes the transcendental emotions in his heart become so strong that it actually overcomes his mental equilibrium. And Prabhupada says Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a typical example of this. He actually lost his mental equilibrium in the sense that he was always in transcendental ecstasy. Okay, let's continue. Text number 33.
Kachit Shivam Deva Putra Vishnu Prajaya Iva Deva Matuhu Yavai Swagarbhena Dadhara Devam Trayiyata Yagyavitanamartham.
As the Vedas are the reservoir of all sacrificial purposes, so the daughter of King Devaka Bhoja conceived the Supreme Personality of Godhead in her womb, as did the mother of demigods. Is she, Devaki, doing well?
Okay, so next is who? Kachit. So Kachit who? Shivam, whether Devaka Bhoja Putriya, who is the daughter of King Devaka Bhoja, who is none other than Devaki. Right. So if you see the order, initially after asking Krishna Balaram, then he has about Vasudeva. And then now he's actually coming after other people, he's coming back and asking about Devaki. So the order is not important here. Right. And then he says Vishnu Prajaya, she gave birth, Prajaya, right? Praja. She actually gave birth to Vishnu. Eva, like that, Deva Matuhu, the mother of the demigods, okay, Aditi, Swagarbena Dadara, conceived by her own womb in the Supreme Lord. So just like the mother of the demigods, Aditi, conceived, the Lord in her womb. And who is that? Vamanadev, right? Upendra, Vamanadev. So similarly, Devaki, she actually conceived, she gave birth to Vishnu. Is she actually Shivam? Everything well. And another example given here is Trai Yatha Yagya Vitanam. Right? So this is an interesting example. Just like the Vedas are spreading the sacrifice. So what does Prabhupada say? As the Vedas are the reservoir of sacrificial purposes. Similarly, Devaki gave birth to. So what is this example? The Vedas are spreading, like Prabhupada in the word to word is Yagya Vitanam, spreading the glory or the purpose of the sacrifices. Similarly, Devaki has given birth to Krishna. Right? So the example here is the Vedas, they glorify the purpose of sacrifice. But what is the glorify? Okay, Vedas say, okay, you should do this sacrifice, this yagya, so and so, right? But what is the purpose of all the sacrifices? Is actually to know the compiler of the Vedas. Vedasa sarva aham eva vedya, right? So the purpose of all the sacrifices is actually to know the purpose of the Veda. Right? The purpose of all the sacrifices is to know the purpose of the Vedas, and the purpose of the Vedas is to actually know Krishna. Right? So similarly, Devaki, she gave birth to Krishna, but Devaki's source is who? Krishna. So similarly, the sacrifices are there, but the source of all the sacrifices is the Vedas, who actually Krishna himself. Right? So, okay, so okay, so Jiva Goswami actually says, how is Devaki, who is like Aditi, who also gave birth to the Lord, held in her womb the Lord, and who was just like the three Vedas containing the meaning of sacrifice. So she was like Aditi only in being a mother of the Lord, but in all other aspects she was actually different. So only the example is just because Aditi gave birth to Vamandev, Devaki birth to, but everything else, Aditi and Devaki cannot be compared. So Jiva Goswami making the point. Okay, so that's it. So let's go 34. Is it okay? Everyone with me? Okay, so let's go up to 40 and we'll finish all the quachits. Then we can take a short break.
Papisviraste Bhagavan Sukamno vo yasat vatam kamadugo nirudaha yam amananti smahi shabdayonim manomayam sattva turiya tattvam. May I inquire whether Aniruddha is doing well? He is the fulfiller of all the desires of the pure devotees and has been considered from yore to be the cause of the Rig Veda, the creator of the mind, and the fourth plenary expansion of Vishnu.
Right. So now he's asking about Aniruddha, right? So may I inquire about Swit weather, right? Again, so we read about Kvachit as weather. Now it is Swit, another Sanskrit word referring to weather. So weather, Bhagwan, personality of God, who gives happiness to his devotees, right? So it is said, Sukham tu Satvatam. Satvatam Patihi. Who remembers Satvatam Patihi from the first canto? Okay, that's your homework. What is that verse, Satvatam Pati? Famous verse, first canto.
Chakra Satvatam, I don't remember the whole thing.
No, that is Chakra Satvat Samhita, I think. But the Lord is actually called Satvatam Patihi, and we discussed that in the first canto. And someone can look that up. But okay, so here Satvatam referring to the devotees, and Sukham, right? He is the one who gives happiness to the devotees. So it is Aniruddha who actually fulfills all the desires of the pure devotees and hence gives happiness to them. Right? So desires of the pure devotees means they are all devotional desires, how they want to serve Krishna. But it's actually Aniruddha who actually fulfills those desires. And then Shabda Yonim, he is the cause of the Rig Vedas, and Manaha Mayam, right? Manaha Mayam is the creator of the mind, and we read how Pradyumna, intelligence, right? Aniruddha, mind. Right? Okay. And Sattva, Turiya, Sattvam is the fourth expansion of Vishnu, right? Turiya, Sattvam. So it's the fourth expansion of Vishnu, Aniruddha. So how is Aniruddha doing, right? So creator of the mind and fourth plane expansion of Vishnu. So Prabhupada in the purport talks about Adi Chaturbhuja, right? So it is Krishna, Balaram. Then from Balaram, you have the first Chaturvyuha expansion, Adi Chaturvyuha. Then you have Narayan, and then you have second Chaturvyuha expansion, right? So Adi Chaturvyuha is Baladev, is Vasudev, Sankrishna, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. So that's the Aniruddha and Pradyumna that's being talked about here. And this is for same four personalities appeared as Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrugna. Right? These are the four Chaturvyas. Okay. And right. So Prabhupada talks about, like, when we talk of this first Chaturvya, the first one is Vasudev. And this is that Vasudev who is actually the personality of Krishna in Dwarka. Right? This is the first explanation. But who is Krishna of Vrindavan? He is the original, Swayam Bhagwan Krishna. Right? So Krishna said, Prabhupada says, Vrindavan Paritajya Padam Ekam Na Gacchati. The original Krishna never leaves Goloka Vrindavan. So outside Vrindavan, wherever we see Krishna, it is always an expansion of Krishna. Vasudeva Krishna is in Dwarka, etc. But original Krishna, Swayam Bhagwan, is only within Vrindavan. So Prabhupada elaborates on it. Okay, let's go further. Text number 35.
35. Abhisviranye chani jatmadaivam ananyavritya samanuvrataye ridika satyatmaja charudeshna gadadaya swasti charanti somya.
Hare Krishna. O sober one, others such as Hridika, Charudeshna, Gada, and the son of the Satyabhama, who accept Lord Sri Krishna as the soul of the self and thus follow his path without deviation, are they well?
So now after asking all these personalities, now he's saying Anye and the others, others. How are the others doing? And who are the others he's concerned of? He mentions few names like Hridika, Charudeshna, Gada, son of Satyabhama, right? But the others that he's interested in are those who actually Ananya Vritya, those who accept Lord Krishna as the soul of the self, and thus they follow his path without deviation. So Vidura's main concern is for the devotees of the Lord, the pure devotees of the Lord, right? He's not so much concerned of the others. The others who are, who consider Lord Krishna as they have that Ananya Vritya, undeviated, absolute faith in Krishna, how are they doing? Right? And that's what he asks. So again, the devotee of the Lord, we already made the point. As long as they're pure devotees, they're following the path of Krishna, they're always well. They're always well. So hence Vidura's question is not so much practical, but it is more emotional, more psychological in that way. 36.
Api swadhorbhyam vijayachutabhyam dharmena dharma paripati setu duryodhano tapyata yat swabhayam samrajya lakshmya vijayanuvritya.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Also, let me inquire whether Maharaja Yudhishthira is now maintaining the kingdom according to religious principles and with respect for the path of religion. Formerly, Duryodhana was burning with envy because Yudhishthira was being protected by the arms of Krishna and Arjuna as if they were his own arms. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So now he's going to ask about the Pandavas. Right? So now he first starts with Yudhishthira. And what does it say? Very nicely he says, Api Swadobhyam, the two arms of Yudhishthira. Who are the two arms of Yudhishthira? And he says Vijaya, referring to Arjun, and Achyutabhyam, along with Lord Shri Krishna, Achyuta. Right? He's saying, is Yudhishthira, who has his two arms as Arjun and Krishna, is he actually ruling according to religious principle, dharmena and setum, with respect for the path of religion? He's actually, he's Dharmaraj, but is he actually, ruling with his two arms, Arjun and Krishna, according to religious principles? And then further is now maintaining the king. Yeah. So Prabhupada says, so we made that point. According to religious principle and with respect for the path of religion, setum. And then the next point here is Duryodhan Atapyata. So Duryodhan Atapyata. Previously, Duryodhan was burning with envy when Sabhayam, Sajrajya, Lakshmya, Vijaya Anuvritya. So previously, Duryodhan was burning with envy when? When was this? When Yudhishthira Maharaj had actually created the entire kingdom in Indraprastha. Before the entire gambling match, when Duryodhan went there and he saw the entire assembly hall, so that's why it uses the word Sabhayam. He saw the entire assembly hall, Samrajya, imperial. It was actually greater than that of the demigods. Yudhishthira that was greater than demigods, Lakshmiya, opulence, and Vijaya Anuvritya. Right? So Vijaya Anuvritya means with the highest excellence. When Duryodhan saw that Sabhaya, then he was completely filled with envy. Right? So how is that Yudhishthira actually doing? Right? So Prabhupada actually makes a point. The opulence of the Yudhishthira surpassed all the imaginations of opulences of the kingdom of heaven, greater than even Swarga Loka. That was Yudhishthira's kingdom. And then the beauty of a kingdom is not as much as how much opulence they have, but the real beauty of the kingdom is how they adhere to religious principles and how principles of honor and respect for religion is actually there in the religion. So true beauty of a religion, of a kingdom, is how much is it actually these 2 points. Dharmena and Setu. How is actually according to religious principles and how it has respect for the path of religion. And if you consider this definition of beauty, then what do you say of our government now? It's totally ugly because there's no respect for religion and there's no religious principles. Okay. So how is Yudhishthira doing? And 2 arms with Arjun and Achyuta. Okay, 37. Yeah, you're on mute.
Api 36, right?
37.
Oh, sorry, 37. Kimva kritagye shagam atyamarshi bhimo hivadirgatamam vyamunchat yasyangripatam ranapurna sehe margam gadaya sharato vichitram.
Please tell me whether the unconquerable Bhima, who is like a cobra, has released his long cherished anger upon the sinners. The field of battle could not tolerate even the wonderful playing of his club when he stepped on the path.
Kim, whether who Agheshu Agham Atim Amarshi, right? So it actually says that unconquerable Bhima, right? And it said Ahivat. Ahivat means like a cobra. Dirgatam, long cherished, Vyamunchat has released. So when a cobra, he's angry and he's holding his poison and he's not released it, then that cobra becomes very, very dangerous. Because that anger he's holding is actually building that poison within, just getting ready to attack. That cobra is the most dangerous. So similarly, Bhima, he's been holding on to that anger for so long, Ageshu, unto the sinners. Has he actually released that anger? Has he actually released that anger? So that's how he's asking. Right? To those who are Ageshu, who has performed all these sins, has he released that long cherished Dirga Tamam anger to those sinners? Right? And the next part is Yasya Angri Patam. Right? Just by his putting Angri on the Ranabhi, right? As soon as he steps on the battlefield, right? As soon as he puts a step on the battlefield, Na Sehe, no one, the field of battle could not tolerate even Gadaya Charata Vichitram, the wonderful playing of his Gada. So actually, Bhima, as soon as he stepped on the battlefield and he used to move his Gada, even the battlefield could not tolerate that. That is the strength of Bhima. And now, because he's storing that anger for so long, has he actually released that anger? How is that Bhima Sen actually doing? Okay, next, 38.
Achit Yashodha Ratayutapanam Gandhi Vadhanvo Paratariraste Alakshito Yacharakuta Gudho Maya Kirato Girishastutosha.
So, without seeing the translation, right? So, who is he actually asking about here? Kachid Yashoda Ratha Yutapanam, right? Gandhiva.
Arjuna.
First he asked Yudhishthir, then he asked Bhim, and next is Arjun, right? So he said, Kachit Beda, Yashodadha, one who actually is famous amongst all the Ratha Yutapana, among all the chariot warriors, he is the most famous. Who is that? Gandiva, who actually has the Gandiva Dhanva, the bow of the Gandiva, right? And Uparata Ari, who is actually known for vanquishing his enemies. Are his enemies? Right? Is he aste? Is he doing well? And then the next part is glorifying Arjun. He says, Alakshita Maya Kirata. Kirata means what? Maya Kirata is false hunter. When Lord Shiva, one name of Shiva is what? Girisha. When Lord Shiva, actually he came as a false hunter, Then Lord, and then Arjun, he was so powerful that he actually covered Lord Shiva with his arrows. In that way, he satisfied Lord Shiva. That is the glory of this Arjun. Is Arjun actually doing well? Okay. And then in response to that, Lord Shiva gave him the Pashupati weapon. Right? So, okay. Should we continue? Okay. Someone can read the translation quickly.
Hare Krishna. Please tell me whether Arjuna, whose bow bears the name Gandiva, and who is always famous amongst chariot warriors for vanquishing his enemies, is doing well. He once satisfied Lord Shiva by covering him with arrows. Then Shiva came as an unidentified false hunter.
Okay. Next verse, 39.
Yamavutasvid tanayo prataya partai vrito pakshmabhir akshiniva remata udhaya mridesvariktam parat suparnav iva vajrivaktrat.
Are the twin brothers who are protected by their brothers doing well? Just as the eye is always protected by the eyelid, they are protected by the sons of Pritha, who snatched back their rightful kingdom from the hands of their enemy Duryodhana, just as Garuda snatched nectar from the mouth of Indra, the thunderbolt carrier.
So they asked Yudhishthir, Bhima, Arjun, and now the two remaining, right? Nakul and Sahadeva. So Yamo Utasit, right? So Yamo referring to the twins, whether they are actually doing well. And then Taniyo Pritaya, Pritha. So the sons of Pritha and Vrito Parthi. Such a nice example is given. Akshini Pakshmabhihi. Like just like the eyes are protected by the eyelids, right? Similarly, these two brothers, the twins, were actually protected by the sons of Pritha, with sons of Kunti, right? Arjun, Yudhishthir, and Baldev, and Bhishma. Bhishma. So as these two twins are protected by the three brothers, and then it further actually tells about these brothers. These brothers are so powerful that Remate, just like playing carelessly, Udhaya, they snatched in a fight Swariktam, their own property from the enemy. So how these brothers, just playing carelessly, they snatched their property, their own property, back from the enemy Duryodhan. And the example is given like Vajri referring to Indra, just like how Garuda, he snatched the nectar from the mouth of Indra. Just like that, the Pandavas, these three Pandavas, they actually snatched their rightful claim back from Duryodhana. Right? So these two brothers, they are protected by the twins are protected by Yudhishthir, Arjun, and Bhima. Right? So are they doing well? So the story is there about how Garuda, he actually snatched the nectar from Indra. You know the story?
No, Prabhuji.
It's a whole story, but after that churning of the milk ocean and Indra, they had the pot. Then it's described how Garuda, he actually went to get that nectar pot. And that time almost it was like a fight between Garuda and Indra. But then Indra realized the power of Garuda. Like when Indra threw his thunderbolt, Vajra weapon, Garuda, he said like, what is this Vajra in front of me? It was nothing. But just to show some respect to Indra's thunderbolt, he shed one feather from his wing. He said, I should show some respect to Vajra, otherwise Indra will feel so bad. So he just released one feather from his wings. That is Garuda. So just like that Garuda, he actually snatched the nectar from Indra. Similarly, the Pandavas were so strong that they easily snatched back their rightful kingdom from Duryodhana. Okay, next 40. So this is the last one, then we'll take a quick break.
Aho pratapi driyater bhakarte rajar shivaryena vinapitena yastve kaviro dhirato vijigye dhanur dvitiya kakubhas chatashraha.
O my lord, is Pritha still living? She lived only for the sake of her fatherless children. Otherwise, it was impossible for her to live without King Pandu, was the greatest commander and who alone conquered the 4 directions simply with the help of a second bow.
Aho, oh my lord. So is Pritha Kunti, is Kunti still living? So after asking the 5 Pandavas, now he's actually asking, is Kunti Devi still living? And then he makes the point that Kunti, she was actually Arbaka Arthe. She was living only for the sake of the father's children. So Prabhupada actually makes this point that when Pandu, he actually died, then both Madri and Kunti, they wanted to enter into the fire. You know, but Madhuri said, no, I will enter. You stay back to protect these 5 children. So even in the previous purport, Prabhupada makes a point that even Nakul and Sahadev, they were actually, the previous verse says, Pritha, they are also considered as a son of Kunti because Kunti is the one who actually raised them and took care of them. Right? So even at that time, Kunti wanted to actually enter into the fire, with Pandu, but she stayed. She was alive just for these 5 sons. So is she actually doing well? Otherwise, it is very difficult for her to live without Rajarshi, the King Pandu, who is actually, then he says, Viraha, warrior, Adiratha, the commander, and Vijige, who actually could conquer all the directions just with a second bow. Just with a second bow. You're so powerful that you could actually conquer all directions. The second bow was like a second person assisting him. So 2 bows, he can conquer all the directions. So it is very difficult for her to live without Pandu, but she's living just for her sons. Okay. So that's up to text 40. So this is all Kvachit verses, right? Or Swit, right? The same whether they're all doing well. Now, okay, so this we have few more verses for this chapter, 5 more verses, right? But let's see, should we take any question realizations up to this point?
Prabhuji, I like that. How if we constantly think of Lord Krishna, then that is an antiseptic for keeping oneself from infectious contamination of the material.
Very nice. Like in purpose, you find these like special sentences, and I always keep thinking that we should compile a book, where we have all these powerful sentences from Prabhupada's purpose. It'll be nice, and then you can also make it like a, one of these words like calendars they have. Every day one of these powerful. Nice to do that. Thank you. Anyone else? Any points, comments, realizations?
Hare Krishna, I was also looking at this sentence from Prabhupada, no one can be happy without the grace of Lord, because all our happiness depends on Lord's being happy.
Yeah, that's the point. Like externally, everything may be good, but if you are not Krishna consciousness, nothing is good. But if you are Krishna conscious, some of you are in contact with Krishna, externally everything may be bad, but still it is good because we are in contact with Krishna. It's all auspicious, it's all auspicious. So, thank you. Yes, Abhijay.
I had one question about sati. Is it not considered suicide because suicide is not recommended, right? So even though it's voluntary, is it not? Why is sati?
So Prabhupada actually mentions that point in purport. See, we have to see sati more from a spiritual perspective. If the spiritual perspective is lost, then there is no point of it. Then we consider, oh, it is suicide. What is the spiritual perspective? Because the wife, to serve the husband in his devotional practices, right? So the wife actually gets all the credits that the husband gets. So if the husband has led a spiritual life and so his next destination is certainly either is back to Godhead or something very, very elevated position because he has led his life in such a wonderful way. And the wife has assisted, the husband in that service. So if the husband is now going back home, back to Godhead, the wife says, okay, if you're going back, even I will come with you. I have always assisted you in all your services. Now you are getting the result. I will actually come with you. So we have to see from the spiritual perspective, and hence that Vedic tradition was actually there. That the husband is going to a higher destination, I will follow my husband. And hence a voluntary used to enter, and not in the sense of suicide, not in the sense of giving up this material world, but now I am going with my husband to the highest, higher deity. Maybe that's back to God. It's only Prabhupada elaborates on that in his purport, and then it's only like later on when the spiritual perspective is lost, then there is no point to this. Then it actually later on in the society, it also became forceful. It was always supposed to be with that spiritual perspective, and it was always supposed to be voluntary. But then it became forceful. Then it was just abandoned. It was said, okay, this is not right. Abolished, sorry. This is okay? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else?
Also, original Lord Krishna never leaves Golok Vrindavan.
Vrindavan Parityaja Padam Ekam Na Kacha. Right, so this is a very important point in our Siddhanta to actually understand how the original Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And then later on in the 10th canto, we see how Akrura, he comes to take Krishna Balram. But then when he takes to take bath, then he sees Krishna Balram there, and then he also sees him on the chariot. So it's saying at that point, the original Krishna Balram, they stayed behind, and the Vasudeva expansion, they actually left Vrindavan.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, sir.
So once we leave the planet, so still we recognize who is my wife or father or something like that. Once we leave the planet, we cannot recognize them, right? Only for the life on this planet only they are related, right?
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu. They say like how a family who prays together stays together. They say that point. But the main point is like, if the husband, if the husband and wife are living in that very Krishna conscious way, they are assisting each other in their spiritual journey, then they both will go to a next destination where they may be together. They may be together. But again, in that destination, they may have some other connections.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Or sometimes there's also a possibility that if both of them are engaged in Krishna consciousness, but they have both not completed their Krishna consciousness, and because they are served together, maybe next life they may come together, maybe in different relationship to complete their Krishna consciousness, but they may still be related together. It's possible.
Okay. Yep. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I wanted to point out the Adokshaja happiness which was enjoyed by pure devotees as opposed to Brahman consciousness.
Yeah, so only the devotees can actually have access to this Haladini potency, the Adoksha happiness. No one else. Okay, so let's take a quick break. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So the point you said, like our welfare and prosperity all depends on Krishna. So whoever wants to be happy, it's better to take the shelter of Krishna. They will be prosperous also and happy also.
Yes, that's a key point. Yeah, if Krishna is the center of life, everything is good. Like watering the root of the tree.
And Arjuna's call is here Falguni because he is born in the month of Falgun. So that's why his name is Falguni.
Thank you. Okay, so let's take 5 minutes break. I'll come back at 8:45. We'll finish this chapter. I want to also do let's see, next 2 sections of the next chapter. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so 5 minutes. Let's take a break. Come back at 8:45. We will continue. Thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, One more time, a little louder, please. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So let's continue. We are on text number 41. Right. So up to this point, we have actually said, how Vidura has asked Uddhav all these questions about the well-being of this person, that person, well-being of this Pandavas, and then all the different Yadus, Vasudev, Devaki, Yudhana, all these personalities. But now he's going to mention one personality for whom he is not going to ask well-being, right? And who is that personality? So let's read text 41, right?
Somyanushoche tamadhapatantam bratre paritaya vidu druheya niryapito yena suritsvapurya aham swaputran samanuvratena.
So up to this point is I'm asking the welfare of all these, but now anusoche, but I'm lamenting for one person because I know he is not doing well. Who is that one person? Okay, let's read the translation.
O gentle one, I simply lament for him, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons.
Right. So it says, Saumya, O gentle one, anusoche, I'm lamenting for who? Adha patanam. Adha patantam. Adha means lower, patantam means falling. Who is actually gliding towards hell. Who? Bratre, my own brother. And paretaya vidu druhu. Like when his brother was actually killed, when Pandu actually died, he revolted against Pandu in the sense that he did not give the rightful share to the sons of Pandu. And then Yena, Surit, Swapurya. But although I have been always his Surit, right? Where do we hear this word Surit? Surit again, many times it comes in. Suridam, Sarvabhutanam, Gyatva Mam Shanti. Surit, right? So Krishna says the best friend. So here he's saying, I am that Surit. I have been always his well-wisher, but it's so unfortunate. I'm lamenting for him because he has what? Swaputram samanuvratena. He has accepted the same line of action as his Swaputram, as his own sons. He's just following Duryodhana blindly. He's accepted the same path as Duryodhana, and hence he's gliding to hell. Though I have always been his well-wisher. So I'm just lamenting for that person. So Prabhupada says, he did not ask about the welfare of his brother because he knew there was no chance of his well-being because he's following the evil Duryodhana. Right? And then Prabhupada, he gives the last sentence of his purport. He says, Vidura never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be Surit, well-wisher, even at the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life. It was Vidura only who proved to be his real friend. And Prabhupada says, such is the behavior of a Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies. The quality of a Vaishnava is that he is always Surit. He is always the well-wisher, in spite of that person being an enemy or doing nonsense or all those things. He's always the well-wisher. Always the well-wisher. Right? And actually, I have this one sheet. If anyone is interested, I can share it. It's 13 quotes from the words of Srila Bhakti Saraswati Thakur. It's beautiful. I have actually put it in my office room. It's so nice. The first one actually says, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. Let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. And all the 13 quotes are so powerful. I just put it there and it's just good to just read through those quotes. So beautiful quotes. I'll just read one more just because it's so beautiful. Life is for the glorification of topics on Hari. If that is stopped, then what is the need to carry on one's life? Then that way he has 13 beautiful quotes. So the first one, he says, let me not desire anything but the highest good for my worst enemies. So that is the behavior of Vaishnava. We read one similar verse in the first canto, glorifying Parikshit Maharaj. Anyone remembers that verse? It's in Bhagavad Ratnamala. The nature of a Vaishnava. Because if you see here, Vidura, he had all the reasons, like Dhritarashtra, like he did everything for Dhritarashtra. He was a well-wishing, always giving good advice. But what was Dhritarashtra? You know, even when Duryodhana actually insulted Dhritarashtra, insulted Vidura, Dhritarashtra did not even say a word. That is what he did for all the loyalty for so many years. But did Vidura hold a grudge against Dhritarashtra? No, he was always his well-wisher. Right? So in the first canto, in 18th chapter, text 48, we hear Shamik Rishi, telling to his son Shringi. He's saying, this is the nature of devotees of the Lord. And he says that verse, Tiraskrita Vipralabha, Shapta Shipta Hatahati, Nasya Tad Pratikurvanti, Tad Bhakta Prabhuvopi. So he's saying the glory of the devotees is Tira Kritaha, even if they are defamed, like how Vidura was defamed, right? Then Vipralabha, being cheated, Saptaha, they are cursed, Shiptaha, they are actually disturbed by negligence, right? Hataha, even if they are killed. Then what is the nature of a devotee? Tad bhakta prabhavipi. What is a bhakta's nature? Nasya tat parikruvanti. He never actually counteracts this, right? So devotees of the Lord are so forbearing that even though they are defamed, cheated, cursed, disturbed, neglected, or even killed, they are never inclined to avenge themselves. They are always the eternal well-wisher. Right? Now, Prabhupada used to say, your ever well-wisher. Right? So, beautiful verse. Okay, so that is Vidura's, he's lamenting for his brother, text 42.
Soham harer martya vidambanena drisho nirnam chalayato vidhatuhu nanyopalakshya padavim prasadach charami pashyan gata vishmayotra.
I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activities of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects.
So he's made the point that, I am lamenting for my brother. Then further, he actually making the point, Soham Harera Martya Vidambanena. Right, so now he's contrasted like all the Krishna, Balram, all his associates, and other side he's actually contrasted Dhritarashtra. And now he's actually saying Soham Harera. Therefore, I Vidambanena, without being recognized, I am traveling all over the world. Why? Because I can see. I am happy. Why? Because I can see the effect of the internal energy and the external energy of the Lord. And this is when one actually knows the glories of the Lord. So he actually says, Pashan, right? He's seeing, but by his grace, Prasadat Pashan, by the grace of Lord Hari, he's actually seeing the actions of the internal and the external energy of the Lord. And Chalayata na upalaksha. So the common people are bewildered by the actions of the Lord. Right, which may actually appear like martyr, like those of the men in this mortal world. Right, so Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, they consider Krishna's actions just like a martyr, just like a action of a regular man. They could not recognize Krishna's glories, but I recognize Krishna's glories by his mercy. The only way we can actually recognize Krishna's glories is by his own mercy. When Krishna actually blesses us, selects us to be, to receive that mercy, then we can know his glory. So Vidura is actually making the point that I am traveling. Someone may say that, yes, you're lamenting for Dhritarashtra, but what are you doing? You just said you're Surat. Go back, take care of him. But he's saying, no, I am seeing both the internal and the external energy because I know the glories of the Lord. And hence I'm actually traveling to all these holy places. So I'm not astonished at this, how Dhritarashtra is behaving, because I have traveled over the world, and having traveled over the world without being seen by others, the activities of the Lord, which are like those of the man in this mortal world. So Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, they are seeing Krishna's actions just like the action of any other person. Right? They are bewildering to others, but I know Krishna's action, and thus I am happy in all respects. Right? So a devotee may feel compassion. A devotee feels compassion for those who are not turning to Krishna, but still he feels like he's internally happy because he knows this is all Krishna's energies and action. Right? Okay. And then Prabhupada in the purpose says how Vidura is completely different from Dhritarashtra. Though they are brothers, Dhritarashtra is a completely opposite. Dhritarashtra is seeing Krishna's actions, but thinking that that's action of a common man. But Vidura, he knows the glories of Krishna. Right? Right. And then Prabhupada says he could realize this in the progress of his pilgrim's journey, and thus he was freed from all doubts. So even if because here the point is like as Vidura was traveling to all the holy places, Prabhupada is saying he was freed from all that. He realized that this is all Krishna's action. How everything is happening in this world is all Krishna's action. So he was not sorry to be bereft of house, because he now had experienced the dependence on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. So this is another one of the sentences that should go in our, should call it a name, Prabhupada bullets, we can say. Prabhupada purport bullets, like something like that. And he says, he now had experienced that dependence on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. It's a beautiful sentence to discuss a little bit. So, one may say that, okay, Vidura left home. And then as soon as he left home, he could have said that, okay, now I'm free. I was bound up with this whole network of Dhritarashtra, Pandavas, the kingdom, all those things. I am free. But that is not real freedom. Even practically in our life, we may be going through different obstacles or challenges, and we may just say, oh, Krishna, take it away. Take it away. And maybe, that may be required for us to progress, it may be required for that particular situation. But, we just think that, okay, if this problem is taken away, then that's it. Then everything is perfect. But it is not so much of the problem, because one problem will go, other problem will come. But the whole thing of every problem is, how is that helping us declare our dependence on Krishna? Because that is only the true freedom one can have. The true freedom, the true independence of a jiva is his complete dependence on the Lord. So Vidura's leaving a house, externally one may think that, okay, now he's free. No. His real freedom was because of traveling to all these holy places and realizing his dependence on Krishna. And now he felt like, okay, now I am free. So that's his realization all through the pilgrimage. So Prabhupada is stressing on that. So Prabhupada says a person should not be in the renounced order of life unless he's firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. And this stage is called Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhi. So every living entity is factually dependent on the mercy of the Lord. But when one realizes that, then that is called Sattva Shuddhi. And that realization will give one Abhayam. Right? Fearlessness. And Prabhupada says, a devotee of the Lord who is Narayana Para. Where do we hear this Narayana Para? So Narayana Para Sarve. So Lord Shiva tells to Parvati in the Chitraketu episode, Narayana Para Sarve na kutaschana bibhyate swarga apavarga narkeshu api tulyartha darshana. And what does it say? The devotees of the Lord, Narayana Para Sarve. They are completely dependent on Narayana. Na kutaschana bibhyati. Hence, they are not fearful of anything. Swarga, apavarga, narkeshu. They go swarga or apavarga. They go the spiritual world. Or narak, or hellish planet. Anywhere they go, they are fearless because they are completely dependent on Krishna. So their freedom is that complete dependence on the mercy of the Lord. Right? So even in our life, practical life, the Lord is actually showing his mercy. Just that we are engaged in bhakti is the mercy of the Lord. But when we completely realize that everything I'm doing is only by the mercy of the Lord, that realization gives us that freedom. That realization gives us the freedom. Realize that everything, anything in bhakti I'm doing is only by the mercy of the Lord. The Lord is giving me this blessing so that I can serve him. That realization is the true freedom. Right? Is a true freedom. Is that point okay? That point makes sense. Does anyone want to comment on this point? before we proceed?
Hare Krishna, this is so wonderful and it's so practical also. Like how we have to be completely surrendered, otherwise we cannot, we cannot undergo all the trials and tribulations in this world.
So
this is like I love this purport. It's so beautiful.
So there are two things, like, in Karmis, what do they see? They say we want freedom to. Freedom to. Freedom to what? Do what I want to. Freedom to watch anything I want to do, eat anything, drink anything. I want freedom to do all these. What is a devotee's concept? The true freedom is not freedom to, but it is freedom from. Freedom from. And freedom from what? Finally, the three modes of material nature. Because someone may say, I am free to drink. But that drink is actually, that drinking habit is that itself is a binding on him. And next time he says, okay, I don't want to drink, still will be forced to do it. Is that freedom? No, he's just binding himself more with these chains, the three modes of material nature. Real freedom is freedom from the three modes of material nature. And that means freedom from lust, anger, greed, all our bad habits, everything. So devotees' focus is freedom from, not freedom to. That freedom to is another kind of binding. So that freedom from can only be achieved when we actually, as Prabhupada says, when we experience the dependence on the mercy of the Lord. Experience the dependence, that everything we are doing, we are dependent on mercy. That feeling of gratitude, that feeling of connection with Krishna, that's a true thing. Right? Okay. Right.
Prabhuji, I want to add that the stress happens when we think that we are the controller. Oh, I have to do all this. But when we leave it on Krishna, that Krishna is a very good God. He's our very dear friend. Because of his mercy, everything is happening. Then that stress goes away.
Thank you. Very nice point. Thank you.
And one more thing, Prabhuji, it says like after that Abhayam Sattva Sanstuti, the result of such purification is exhibited in fearlessness. This is for devotee.
Yes, Abhayam, Abhayam.
Yes, Abhayam.
In relationship to that, Prabhupada quotes that Narayana Parasarve na kutaschana pipyati. That verse in the center. Right? Only a devotee can be.
Prabhupada was Abhayam, he had no fear in getting onto that cargo ship.
Abhaya Charna Ravindare. Yes. Okay. So Vidura has expressed that, yes, he is feeling that lamentation for his brother, but still he is happily traveling because he actually knows the glories of the Lord by the mercy of the Lord, and hence he can see the workings of the internal energy and external energy of the Lord. Right? So that verse clear? Next. Okay. Next, let's go to 43.
Nunam Nripanam Trimadotpatanam Mahim Muhushchalayatam Chamubihi Vadhat Prapanarthi Jihir Shayesho Yupaikashatagham Bhagavan Karunam.
Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Despite his being the Lord and being always willing to relieve the distress of sufferers, he, Krishna, refrained from killing the Kurus, although they committed all sorts of sins, and although he saw other kings constantly agitating the earth by their strong military movements carried out under the dictation of three kinds of false pride. Hare Krishna.
Okay, and then further he's saying Nunam. Of course, these kings who are three Mada Utpanana, they are working under the influence of the three kinds of false pride. Right? So what are the three kinds of false pride? So Prabhupada says in the purport, it is a false pride due to wealth, education, and followers. Wealth, education, and followers. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, instead of followers, he's saying birth. So either wealth, knowledge, and birth. right? Wealth, knowledge, and birth. So because of these three, there are all these kings who are actually mother. Mother means almost out of false pride, out of madness. They are, what are they doing? Mahi muhu chalayatam. They're constantly agitating the earth by the movement of the soldiers. You know, by the movement of the soldiers, they're constantly agitating the earth. You know, that, you know, how Mother Earth said, oh, all these kings, they are actually creating so much sinful activity, and hence she prayed to a demigod. So here, of course, there are all these kings who are actually constantly agitating the earth by the movement of soldiers. Api, in spite of all these offenses, Isha, the Lord, Upaishata Vadat, had waited from the act of killing them. Prapanna Arti Jiharsa, willing to relieve the distress of sufferers who surrender unto him. So the point here, Vidura are actually saying that yes, all these vicious kings are there, but Krishna, though he actually comes down to give relief from the distress to all those people who surrender unto him, he has still not yet killed those personalities. Why? Those who have not read the purport, you can actually think about this and say, like,
Let them all collect at the same place, and then he will kill them together.
okay, one point. And the second point?
He wants to give credit to his devotees.
Yes, second point. So these 2 points are there. Prabhupada elaborates. And basically he says, Nunam, of course, you know, all these kings are there, but Krishna has actually waited to kill them. And then that way he is actually glorifying Krishna. Krishna actually comes down to do this, yada yada hi dharmasya paritana sadhuma, to kill the miscreants and give protection to his devotees. But in spite of this much needed mission, he actually tolerated that insult to Draupadi. Yes, he protected Draupadi in the sense that he provided her with unlimited cloth, right? Unlimited cloth. But he did not immediately at the time come to the assembly and destroy all the Duryodhan and his team, right? Why did he tolerate, right? Not that he has excused them, but these 2 reasons. One is your Lord was waiting to get them all together on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and kill them all at once. And the second one, the Lord always wants to see his devotee as the hero of some episode which he himself performs. The Lord does it, but he wants to make his devotee as the hero. Right? In Bhagavad Gita 11th chapter, what does Krishna tell Arjun? Nimitta matram bhava sarvasachi. Right? So what is that? Tasmatvam utishta yasho labhasva. Right? Oh, stand up, Arjun. Yasho labhasya. You gain, you become the hero. You gain the good fortune. Right? Because I have already killed them in the form of Kalosmi. In the form of time, I have already killed all of them except for you, Pandavas. But you rise, you fight, you take credit. In that way, you just become nimitta matram. You just become my instrument. Right? So Krishna, that's, you know, why is Vidura saying this? Because he's saying this is the quality of Krishna. You know, he is glorifying Krishna in that way, that he is actually so dear to his devotees. He wants to give all credit to his devotees. Okay, next verse, 44.
Ajasya janmod patanashanaya karmanya kartur grahanaya pumsam nanvanyata kor hati deha yogam paro gunanam utakarma tantram.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. The appearance of the Lord is manifested for the annihilation of the upstarts. His activities are transcendental and are enacted for the understanding of all persons. Otherwise, since the Lord is transcendental to all material modes, what purpose could he serve by coming to earth? Hare Krishna.
So here the words in this verse are very interesting. Ajasya janma. Ajasya means unborn. Janma means born. Right? So the unborn is taking birth. And then another word is karmanya akartur. Right? The one who is actually does not do as such action, he is actually working. Right? One akartur, Prabhupada explained, one has nothing to do, he is actually working. Right? So 2 opposites we see. Ajasya janma and karmani akartur. So why is the Lord actually, who's transcendental to this entire material world, why would he actually come down? You know, and here Vidura is giving the 2 reasons, right? So the unborn appears to take birth, right? And then he says, Utpata Nashanaya, for the sake of annihilating the upstarts, right? he actually takes birth. And the second one is karmanya akartur, right? He does, though he is not forced to do any kind of activity, he has nothing to do, he is actually working. Why? Because the point is he wants to attract all kinds of people, the karmis, the jnanis, the bhaktas. He wants to attract all these people to the pastimes of Lord Shri Krishna, which is that famous verse in the first canto of Bhagavatam, which says that Krishna does his activities to attract all kinds of people. Very famous verse. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this in 61 different ways. Atma Ramasya Muniyo Nirganti Api Urukrama. So that verse is saying the same thing. Then why is Lord Krishna showing all these different pastimes? So that all grades of people, whether they are liberated, Atmaram, like, they are Jnanis, they are yogis, whatever they are, when they hear about Krishna's activities and they get attracted to Krishna, that's it. They will engage in bhakti and go back home, back to God. So two reasons for the appearance of the Lord that Vidura is giving is, one is Utpata Nashanaya, for the sake of annihilating the upsets, and second, he actually does activities though he has nothing to do, just to actually give everyone an opportunity to hear about his activities, glorious activities like lifting of Govardhan Hill, all these activities full of knowledge, full of bliss, so that he can attract the heart of all living entities. Right. Otherwise, and then he ends with Nanu Anyatha. Otherwise, what purpose? Kaha. Like, what purpose would that Lord, who is actually transcendental to three modes of material nature, have to come here and do? Right. So in that way, there's no purpose. Why would the Lord come down other than doing these two things? Okay. And right, and it says Deha Yogam. He actually comes down to this place which is Deha Yogam, which is actually filled with materially conditioned jivas. And Prabhupada in the purpose, and also Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur makes the point that even devotees, they rise themselves above the three modes of material nature. So what to speak of the Lord? The Lord's activities, though he acts, he does the karmanya, akartur, though he acts in this material world, he is actually always above the three modes of material nature. Okay. And Prabhupada makes this point in this purport. Now, why do we act in this material world? Why do we act in this material world? Why do we do anything in this material world?
Enjoy.
Because of modes of material nature and desires.
Okay, so we are forced to act according to the modes, but what is our motivation? To enjoy.
Enjoy.
Enjoy, right? And what do we want to enjoy? Either we want to have more wealth, we want to become more beautiful, we want to have more knowledge, we want to have more power, all those things. Now, when Lord is Sat Aishwarya Purna, right, what motivation would he have to work? We work, so Prabhupada makes a point, we work in this world because the motivation is we want to improve ourselves. We want to get more level of convenience. This car is there, but this car has an added feature. So I should get this car, like more convenience. And that's why we keep working. But for Krishna, he is the proprietor of everything. He is Sat Aishwarya Purna. He has all these six opulence. So certainly none of this, none of this can be a motivation for the Lord to act. The only reason the Lord acts is these two reasons which I just mentioned. Okay. And Prabhupada also quotes that Bhagavad Gita verse, Na mam karmani limpanti, na me karma phalas priya, iti mam yo bhijanti, karma be na sampadete. Even if we just understand how the Lord has nothing to do, and when he comes here, he actually does it for our benefit. Even if you understand that, karma be na sampadete, we'll get free from the entanglement of work. So this knowledge is so wonderful. Okay. Right. Okay, last verse of this chapter, 45.
Tasya prapanna kila lokapanam avastitanam anushasane sve ardhaya jatasya yadushvajasya vartam sake kirtaya tirta kirtehe.
Hare Krishna. Oh, my friend, please therefore chant the glories of the Lord, who is meant to be glorified in the places of pilgrimage. He is unborn, and yet he appears by his causeless mercy upon the surrendered rulers of all parts of the universe. Only for their interest did he appear in the family of his unalloyed devotees of the Yadus.
Yeah. So this is concluding verse, but it's saying Tasya Prapanna. Prapanna means surrender. So Akhila Lokapanam. Right? For those kings, Lokapala, who have actually surrendered to the Lord actually comes down. And how does he come? Anusasanena Swa. He appears out of his own causeless mercy, out of his own Atma Mayaya. And why does he come? Arthaya, for the interest of all these surrender souls. When all these kings are there, like the Pandavas, who have surrendered to the Lord actually descends out of his own mercy for these surrendered souls. The first point. Second point is Jatasya Yadusa Ajasya. Ajasya, again, we saw previous verse and this verse, Ajasya. The unborn is taking birth in the family of Yadus. Right? And Sakhe, oh my friend, right? Kirtaya Vartam. Kirtaya means glorify. Right? Vartam means topics. So please narrate topics about this. And the last word he uses is Tirtha Kirte. Very beautiful word. Tirtha Kirte means that Lord who is glorified in all places of pilgrimage. Yeah. That is one meaning. Second meaning, the purpose of all pilgrimage is to glorify the Lord. Right? And then the third meaning that Vidura is actually saying, and this is very beautiful. He says, I have traveled to all these holy places and I have bathed in the waters, the holy waters of all these holy places. But now, please bathe me in the nectar of that famous place, which is known as Krishna, which will make all the other holy places successful. Please bathe me with the nectar of Krishna topics, because that nectar will actually make all my pilgrimage successful. So the whole point of traveling to all these holy places is to actually bathe finally in the nectar of Harikatha. So Vidura is saying, please bathe me in that nectar. I want to hear more about Lord Shri Krishna. Right? So Kirta Vartam. He says, what? Kirtaya Vartam. Please narrate these topics about the Lord. Right? So if you see the flow of the last few verses, so he's actually said, okay, Katham, Kachit, whether this person is okay. And then he's saying, okay, I'm lamenting for Dhritarashtra, and he's not doing well because he's actually following his sons, Duryodhana, etc. And then, but I am happily traveling because I see the external and the internal energy of the Lord. But Duryodhana, Dhritarashtra, they cannot see. They cannot see, right? Though they are here. And then he actually said, Krishna, then he glorifies Krishna. He glorifies Krishna and say, yes, Krishna actually, he's appeared here, right? And even though these gurus, they have done all these vicious, sinful activities, Krishna has not killed them. Why? Because he wants to make his devotees as the hero. And that's the quality of Krishna as Bhakta Vatsala. That is Krishna. He's come down just to glorify the Pandavas and just to give them credit. And because these Pandavas have surrendered to him, he has actually come down. Right? So he takes birth, the unborn takes birth, the one who has nothing to do works just to attract the heart of all living entities. Therefore, please glorify the activities of this Supreme Lord, and this will be Tirtha Kirta. This will be the purpose of all my, this will fulfill the purpose of all my travel of pilgrimage. Okay, so that ends chapter 1 of the third canto. Proper and the purpose. Okay, a little bit, let me explain the purpose. The purpose is Tirtha Kirta. The purpose of pilgrimage is to remember the Lord constantly, and therefore the Lord is known as Tirtha Kirti. And Prabhupada says, even today, you go to Vrindavan, you go to Mathura, and Prabhupada says, we had the chance to stay there. Prabhupada stayed in Vrindavan, right, before coming to US. So he said, and people wake up early in the morning at 4 a.m. and until night time, they're constantly engaged, some way or the other. Like all the rickshawalas, Radhe, Radhe, that's their horn, basically. They want, there's so much traffic and there's Radhe, Radhe, and then they go in between. So somehow or other, they're always engaged, constantly engaged in glorifying the Lord. Right? The beauty of the pilgrimage tide is that one automatically remembers the holy glories of the Lord, right? And that remembrance invokes the personal presence of the Lord, right? And the Lord only resides where his pure devotees chant his glories. And that's the point. When you go to this holy dham, you can actually experience the personal presence of the Lord as nowhere else. Why? Because all the devotees in dham, they're actually glorifying the Lord. And when there's a glorification, there's constant remembrance, then naturally one directly feels the presence of the Lord right there. Right? And the Lord actually resides in the place where this constant glorification is going on. Right? So, which is that verse which says that the Lord resides only where his devotees actually glorify him?
Sante Surideshu Vilokayanti. Shanta Brahma Samhita, right, bro?
Is that Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochana?
Yeah. No?
And that's
Yam Sundaram Achanta Gunaswarupam Govindamani. Yeah, that is the same verse. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Sante Vesai Sadarideshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achanta Gunaswarupam Govindamadi.
So the point there is like, because the devotees are with love, they are always seeing the Lord in their heart. The Lord is actually personally present. Okay, that's one. But another verse, Naham Tishtami Vaikunte, right? Who knows? Yoginam Hridayeshu va Tatra Tishtami Narada Yatra Gayanti Madhva. Yes. So Naham Tishtami Vaikunta. I'm not in Vaikunta. Yoginam Hridayeshu va. I'm not in the heart of the yogis. Where am I? Tatra Tishtami Narada Yatra Gayanti Madhva. Where my devotees are always glorifying me, that's where I reside. And so you go to the Dham, you can actually directly experience. And Prabhupada says, automatically one will remember the glories of the Lord.
That was also
Bhagavad Vida Bhagavatas Tirtha Bhuta
Yes.
Swayam.
Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthan.
Tirthi Kurvanti Tirthan.
Yes, the devotees, they carry the Lord in their heart. Okay, let's see, 924. Okay, any comments on the first chapter is okay?
I like it that real freedom is dependence on the mercy of the Lord.
Yes. You want to become free. We all, that desire to become independent is there in each one of us. Why? Because the Lord is Swara. He's completely independent. We are part and parcel of him. So we want that independence. Every one of us. The desire for independence is there. But we are actually looking for the independence in the wrong direction. We are thinking that, if we get free from this material problems, then I'll be free. But that's not real freedom. That independence we are looking for, which is from that Swara, that original Lord, that independence is the independence that we can get when we actually find our connection with the Lord, our dependence on the mercy of the Lord. That is the kind of independence we are looking for. Otherwise, anything we do in this material world, we are just covering ourselves with more and more guna, ropes. Right? Okay. Anything else?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, the purpose of pilgrimage is to remember the Lord constantly.
Another point we were thinking is, in the best quality of the Vaishnava is to, think of the good for even their worst enemy.
It's the quality of a Vaishnava that he thinks he's suited, even though, the enemy may do all those. Tiraskrita, we read that was like one. What's that was?
Prabhuji, a question. So does it mean to forgive the devotees though they are misbehaving?
What? Say that again.
So it's to think best of the enemies, right? Best for the enemies, welfare of the enemies. Does it mean just forgive if they are misbehaving, if they are intimidating you?
Yeah, that's why the verse actually says, Tiraskrita Vipralabdha Shapta Shipta Hata Hapi Nasya Tat Pratikuranti. That what does that verse say? Even if someone is defaming us, if someone is cheating us, someone is cursing us, someone is neglecting us, or even killing us,
even killing us,
then what does it say? Na tat pratikuranti. They don't counteract. They don't contract. Why? If someone comes and does anything, we see that Krishna actually is giving me for my own purification, and that person is just an agent of Krishna's instrument, Krishna's hand. So that is actually the elevated. That's how pure devotees see that. When all this happens, they say it's Krishna's hand. That person is just an instrument. So why should I take revenge from him? Like if the postman comes and brings like a pink slip and says like, "Oh, that's it, your job is over," you don't blame the postman. It's not the postman's fault. So similarly, that is the vision of these pure devotees, and hence they don't see. They don't. Nasya tat pratikuvanti. They don't actually take revenge on these people.
Prabhuji, I was thinking that due to constant association of Krishna, Arjun became such a pure devotee that even if his wife Draupadi was defamed, he was ready to forgive them. He didn't want to fight. He didn't want to take revenge. But he did ultimately fought because Krishna wanted him to do it.
Yeah, so that compassionate nature, Prabhupada talks about that in the first chapter. The nature of a pure devotee is that he's always compassionate, and he's thinking like, why so many people get killed just for us. So the main point is like the point of seeing everything as an instrument of Krishna's mercy, and that point comes again and again and again in the Bhagavatam. Like last time we read why Vidura episode is actually mentioned. Why should we actually start off this discussion by discussing how Vidura was insulted? He's a pure devotee of the Lord. We don't want to hear about the insult on a devotee of the Lord. But why is that mentioned? We gave the reasons last time, right? But the main reason is Bhagavatam is repeating these points to actually show us how we can prepare our consciousness to face the world, to face the world. Like Vidura did so much service, so much loyalty, and then what did he get? Insult. But was he bewildered? No, he just said Krishna's mercy. Left the book, walked away. Pilgrimage. Let me just focus on this is actually Krishna's internal energy is actually inspired me to take more shelter of the Lord. That is the mood of a devotee. So this is like, in Bhagavatam, we are reading of all these like high level, and we may be here, and these devotees are here. So we see what is the ideal. And when we are doing our practical devotion service, we can see how we can take one step towards that ideal. It may not be at the stage where we can just like totally just give up and say, yes, it's Krishna's hand. That's it. This is what I deserve. Like we may not be able to see that. But can we use that as one step and say like, oh yes, this has happened. Maybe let me really go and chant the holy name and really call out for Krishna. Krishna, please help, please help. One step closer. Let me just like do one step where I can come closer to my dependence on Krishna. And really like take shelter of Krishna, one step towards Krishna, one step towards Krishna. And that's how we are preparing our consciousness so that at the final exam, we are actually ready to take 100% dependence on Krishna and mercy. And we are ready to go back home, back to God. So everything in our life is, bringing us that one step closer to Krishna, one step closer to Krishna. So every situation that we face, we should think in this way. Yes, this has happened, but like, how is it actually helping me come closer to Krishna? That's the main thing.
We also read in first canto that how Yudhishthir, he instead of thinking that so much bad Dhritarashtra has done to him, he was thinking that, oh, I'm so ungrateful that he gave us shelter and I killed all his sons.
Very nice.
Instead of thinking of revenge.
Yes, very nice. Yeah. When Dhritarashtra left, he was thinking like, oh, maybe I didn't serve him properly. That's why. Who can think it? Okay, so 9:30. Something I always have a time because I was trying to do 2 sections of the next chapter. But let's just do what is the overview of the chapter and we'll stop. We don't have time to go into the 2 sections. So, second chapter is titled Remembrance of Lord. Right? So it starts off with Uddhav actually. Well, Uddhav will not speak there. He speaks from text 7. But the first section of the second chapter is basically showing Uddhav's exalted position. So we read 2 qualities that were described in the first chapter, but the second chapter, we read that when Vidura asked this question, what is happening internally in Uddhav's mind. And that reveals his devotion, his attachment to Lord Krishna, his exalted nature of devotion is revealed in the first few verses. It's a very beautiful section. And we read all about these emotions. Very, very, very devotional chapter. Very devotional. We read about all these emotions he's going through and up and down. And when the question was asked, how it actually stimulated his remembrance of Krishna. And then so, and he goes into, for one muhurat, for 48 minutes, he just faints. Just dead silent. Imagine Vidura has come from all this pilgrimage and he sees Uddhav and he's asking from text 26 all the way to text 44. He's spoken so many verses and Uddhav is just dead silent. 48 minutes he's dead silent. Because he's in that deep mood of devotion, deep mood of ecstasy. And how that emotions are, that is described in the verse. It's very, very devotional, very beautiful section. Right? Then after, from text 7 through 11, 7 onwards, Uddhav starts speaking. So from 7 up to the end of this chapter, we just see Uddhav actually speaking, right? Answering the questions of Vidura. Right? Now, first thing he actually talks about is the unfortunate situation of the Yadavas. Now, one may say, like, what is that unfortunate? Like, when I was reading it, like, previously during my bhakti, I was like, why is he saying unfortunate situation of the Yadavas? They are like the associates of the Lord Krishna. But here, it's very interesting, like, how to actually see Uddhav's thinking in terms of the Yadavas. Why is he saying that they are unfortunate? Though they are actually direct associates of the Lord. Who is more fortunate than the Yadavas? Right? So he says, like, he talks about the unfortunate situation of Yadavas. Then he talks about, because he's in this mood of remembrance of Krishna, this mood of separation from Krishna, he talks about the beauty of the Lord. How he's actually seeing that beauty and he's actually feeling that separation. So text 7 to 11 is unfortunate. He talks about the Yadavas, and then he talks about the beauty of the Lord, and then he talks about the Lord's mercy and his different activities. And then the last section of the chapter, he actually talks of Vraj Leela, talks of Vrindavan pastime, all the way to Rasa Leela. All the way to Rasa Leela. He talks of like different Vrindavan pastime. And this actually reveals what is going on in Uddhav's mind. See, if you see Uddhav, right, he is actually from the Yadava side, from the Dwarka side, right? Uddhav. Then second one, Rohini. Actually, both of these are more from the Yadava side, but both of them have access to Vrindavan Leela. And Uddhav, imagine, like, Krishna was, he knew how the gopis were in so intense pain of separation from Krishna, the gopis. And Krishna had to somehow console them, right? So Krishna actually sent Narad Muni, then he sent Balaram, and then finally he selected Uddhav. He said, because Uddhav is not different from me, he selected Uddhav. And then we have in the 10th canto, the conversation between Uddhav and the gopis. And that is chapter 47 of the 10th canto, right? The entire, that song of the bumblebee. And there Uddhav is actually seeing this is that love of the gopis of Vrindavan. So though he is actually as such devotee in the Dwarka mood, he actually gets access into the Vrindavan mood. And that too all the way into the heart of the gopis. So Uddhav is actually a very, very special personality. And then after getting the access into the heart of the gopis, then what does Uddhav pray? I just want to reside here as a scrub. No, not scrub. What's it called? Gulmalata. What is a Gulmalata?
Vines.
Yeah, a creeper or a vine. Yeah. You just say, I just want to be a creeper or a vine, like just here, in the dust of Vrindavan. So that the gopis, when they are running to see Krishna, they actually put their feet on it. And Uddhav, now also if you go to Govardhan, you can see there's Uddhav Kund, and Uddhav, it is saying, is right there, residing between that Uddhav Kund and Kusum Sarovar, right in between. It's saying even right now, Uddhav is residing right in Vrindavan. to get the dust of the gopis. So Uddhav is very, very special personality. And the second chapter, the first few verses, reveals that heart of Uddhav. Like what emotions is he going through when now Krishna has departed and he is feeling that intense mood of separation from Krishna. And then he talks about the beauty of Krishna. First is the unfortunate situation of the Yadavas, then beauty of Krishna, activities of Krishna, and Vrindavan pastimes. And that is this entire second chapter. It's a very, very beautiful chapter of the Bhagavatam. So we'll be reading of different Braj pastimes in this chapter. Right?
Prabhu, is this verse also there? The Ahobakiyam verse, isn't it here?
That chapter. Oh, no, sorry, second chapter. Yes, yes.
Second chapter, right?
Towards the end of this chapter, yes. Ahobakiyam Stana Kalakuttam.
That is one of the chapters of Sukdev Goswami's transformation, right?
Yes, yes, very nice point. Ahobakiyam Stana Kalakuttam. It's text 23 of this chapter, yes. So very, very, one of the, all chapters of Bhagavatam are devotional, but this is like super, like really amazing chapter of Bhagavatam. So we'll discuss this next time. We'll have time to go into it. No. Okay. So we'll stop here. Any final comments, questions, realizations?
It's interesting how we keep getting overviews of Krishna's pastimes. Like I think even second canto, right? When Brahma was narrating to Narada, he also went through some of the pastimes of Krishna, and we keep getting those overviews, like little tastes of what's coming up. Yeah.
Sukadeva Goswami is preparing us for that final smiling face of Krishna. So even in the lotus feet of Krishna, we are actually getting a glimpse of that sweetness. And then we are now we are in the thighs, right? So even the thighs, there's so much detail of the lotus feet of Krishna. Yeah, very nice point. Anything else? Anything? Points?
Yes, Pujan, you mentioned about the Dham consciousness, like how we are visiting, how it should be. So we have seen through this Vidura's pastime, like how he traveled and what was his consciousness and how he's inquiring about the Lord and all.
In Bhagavatam is preparing us for everything, like how to go to the Dham, like everything we see the example. And also we read previously how Narad Muni traveling through all those different places. And here we read about Vidura traveling. And what was that main realization that Prabhupada said about his travels? What did Vidura realize as he was traveling? We just read that section from the purport, right?
Krishna's hand in everything.
Yeah, he actually so Prabhupada mentioned that point that he could actually just through his travels, he was realizing how Krishna's mercy is actually doing everything and how the energies of Krishna is actually acting. And so he had that realization. So for devotees, it's not only that we are getting access into the internal energy, but we are also, our vision is such that we can see the workings of the external energy of the Lord. Because both external and internal energy, they are energies of our dear Lord Shri Krishna, and a devotee can actually see both internal and external energy.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. There is a Uddhava Gita. Is that a compilation of Uddhava was singing?
That is in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that is the longest philosophical section in the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Almost the entire 11th canto. Well, starting you have the Navyogendra, but immediately after we start with Uddhava Gita and goes all the way till the end of the canto is Uddhava Gita, except the last chapter. But the whole thing is Uddhava Gita. So very elaborate philosophical discussion between Uddhava and Krishna. So when Uddhava comes to know that, okay, yes, it's time for Krishna to wrap up his pastime, then there is this conversation. So there are two conversations that take place. And we'll talk about that later in the third chapter. But one is here at Prabhas Kshetra, and one is before, where he gives the entire Uddhava Gita.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, ma'am.
I have one question, probably a stupid question, I don't know. So here, when Dhritarashtra left the kingdom, Dharmaraj was lamenting and blaming himself, though all 5 sons were killed, right? Like the
Say that.
5. No, when Dhritarashtra left kingdom without telling anybody.
Oh, okay. In first canto, you're
Right? That's one context. Like Dharmaraj was blaming himself because he was thinking probably he did not take care of him properly. So he was blaming himself. That is his highest level of devotion. On the other, so that is one. So he wants to forgive. He was still thinking about the welfare of his, though he's enemy, he's not enemy, right? So on the other hand, when Nityananda Prabhu was insulted by Jagai and Madai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was really, really furious, and he really wants to release the chakra to kill them, right? So how do I reconcile? So where do I draw the subtle line or boundary, like when to forgive, when to act? Both are two different contexts. Hope I'm clear to you, Prabhuji.
And like I'm not able to relate the first situation and the second situation.
So, no, we are saying that we need to, we should not blame the enemies also.
Yeah.
We should think about the welfare of the enemies, right?
Yeah. So see, the point is like, when there is injustice done to us, like all those qualities in that verse, Tiraskrita, Vipalabha, Shabda, Shubda, all those things, when they're done to us, we have to develop that mood of tolerance and see that as Krishna's hand. But when the same injustice is done to another devotee, then we should not tolerate. If we are in a position that we can take an action, then how can we tolerate these things done to another devotee? The devotee may tolerate. If it's done to us, we should learn the art of tolerance. When it's done to another devotee, we don't. So when Jagai Madai passed time, because Jagai threw that pot and he hurt Nityananda, and Nityananda was bleeding, and Nityananda is Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's most intimate associate. How could Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tolerate? But also beyond that, he said, okay, I'm going to release the chakra. But what was the intention even behind doing that? So yes, there's punishment there, but what was the intention? For their benefit. So whatever the action, a devotee may act or may not act based on the situation, but the intention behind the action is always for the benefit. He may say, okay, this person needs to be punished, otherwise he'll repeat the same mistake. And hence, but that is only out of an intention of Surat, still well-wisher. Or he may select not to punish. And so that is circumstantial based, but the internal heart is always well-wishing. Always well-wishing. So even if something someone does something wrong to us, like if we have that, we should develop that mood of tolerance, but still we should think of their benefit. Now someone else may come and there may be punishment and so on, all those things, but always we have to think for the benefit of people. That is the main thing.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Yeah, this reminds me something what you mentioned before also. Here, if they get punished, that will be minimum punishment. But if we leave them, like after death, it will be like they have to go through all hellish planets and Rauravadi Narakas. That might be more worse. Is that correct, Prabhuji?
Like, devotees see, like, what is, again, it depends, it's very circumstantial whether, we are in a position to take an action but the internal mood is something that we can cultivate, and that is always well-wishing. Even for our worst enemies, we develop that good intention.
Yes, I want to add that when we give pain to a devotee, we are giving pain to Krishna's heart.
Okay.
Also, one more thing to add to that is, like Prabhupada also said, that we can that we also need to have some self-defense. Like if someone is attacking us, or but again with the mood of just protecting my body, because it's Krishna's body. So if someone's attacking me, I have to defend myself, because that's part of my duty actually. So that's also, but again, it's not out of revenge, or it's just out of just duty that I have to do this.
Beautiful points. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
We will end here. Shri Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripasindhubheva cha Patidanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Anyway, the last question is a lot to think about, and it's a lot circumstantial. I just want to make that point, like even Ratnaradika's point that someone has done something wrong to us, like should we just keep tolerating or should we do something? A lot circumstantial. If it's like something repeated, then we should certainly do something. Maybe talk to some other devotee who can take an action or things like that. But if someone is doing a harm and it's not repeated, then how will we continue like that? May keep disturbing our mind. So, it's a lot circumstantial. So you have to be like very careful when you see these points, not that someone is oppressing you and we're just like, okay, I have to tolerate. And in that, it's like, so be very careful. So, always like when there is such situation which is circumstantial, talk to your mentors or senior devotees, talk to your guru, which is something serious, take their advice. How should I act in this? What mood should I have? Because these situations are very, very circumstantial. But internal mood, always we want to have well-wishing for everyone, even whatever they do, right? But what action we take, that is very, very circumstantial. And hence we need guidance of senior devotees. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you all for joining. Hare Krishna. So I just see yeah, okay. So Karuna Mata, yes, I'll mail your Bhagavad Subodhini. So anyone who does not have Bhagavad Subodhini, third canto, please take it from me, and then yeah, okay.
We'll take it from you today in the temple.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, devotees.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.